Chapter 1226. In ancient times, Emperor Myrtle Star's cultivation was earth-shattering, and this crepe Myrtle Star diviner was his masterpiece in the spirit sea realm. It could integrate a cultivator's own fate into the operation of the stars in the universe, borrowing the power of the stars to observe the operation of the heavenly Tao, the fate of all living beings, and the general trend of the world and the trend of the mountains and rivers. However, even though Myrtle Star had advanced to the position of king in ancient times and was only half a step away from the quasi-emperor realm, once he fully activated the crepe Myrtle Star diviner and integrated his fate into the operation of the stars in the universe, it was abnormally strenuous. After all, to integrate one's own strength into the operation of the stars was just a drop in the ocean. Not only did it consume one's essence, chi, and spirit extremely quickly, but it was also easy to get lost. However, the crepe Myrtle Star diviner was very profound. With the deduction, the originally foggy trajectory of fate began to show a clear trajectory in the deduction. The fog of fate was forcibly peeled away, and he approached the truth layer by layer. On the shore of the moon reflection lake, Qin Feng's statue-like body suddenly shook violently, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Crack! He seemed to see a six-colored copper coin being shattered inch by a huge force, and his own secrets were about to be exposed under the great probing power of the unseen. Cough, cough, what a terrifying guy. I have to admit that in terms of divination, I am inferior to you. He reached out to wipe the blood at the corner of his mouth, and wisps of white hair vaguely appeared on the top of his head, and the majestic vitality in his body also decreased a little. Fate's backlash. However, even so, you can forget about finding where I am. His divine thoughts moved, and a trace of fluctuating power in the chief god space was triggered. Boom! The fog was pushed aside, and an indescribably terrifying power suddenly bloomed, blasting toward the purple light above the long river of fate. Bang! In the starry sky above the Lingxiao Palace, Myrtle Star suddenly opened his eyes, and the countless pillars of stars above his head suddenly collapsed, turning into countless fragments. Intense starlight bloomed around him, and a huge star appeared behind him. It was a purple, indescribably precious and mysterious star. An indescribably huge force bombarded the star, and purple light bloomed. Unparalleled power swept out from the mysterious star, instantly shattering that force. Myrtle Star's body shook. Rumble. A huge shockwave spread out. Not good. Dodge. The expressions of many star venerates in the hall changed drastically. However, it was already too late to dodge. An invisible force swept out like a stormy sea. His figure flashed. Bang, bang, bang. A figure flew out as if struck by a huge force and slammed into a pillar in the main hall without any resistance. The collision caused a huge star pillar to make banging sounds. After a long time, Star Sovereign Myrtle Star's expression changed. He only recovered after a long time. His gaze swept across the many star sovereigns in the hall, who were in a sorry state. Crack! Suddenly, a slight sound resounded. He glanced over and noticed that the golden divine throne beneath him had actually been blasted apart by that terrifying force. Interesting. A sneer appeared in his eyes. He shook his sleeves, and an invisible force calmed down the aftershocks in the hall. The primordial Star Lord's final attack was very powerful. If not for that, he would have long found the primordial Star Lord's location and locked onto his whereabouts to capture him. He thought coldly in his heart, Primordial Star Lord, as I gather Xingqian School's providence and improve my cultivation, I will be able to capture you one day. Everyone on the side was shocked when they saw this. They looked at each other with a trace of shock. Everyone had witnessed Sovereign Myrtle Star's strength. He was the son of Emperor Myrtle Star, a peerless existence at the peak of the king realm and a half-step sub-emperor. Some of the veteran kings were no match for Sovereign Myrtle Star. Even among the peerless kings who had appeared in the world, he was definitely ranked in the top 10. His Myrtle Star divinatory art, had an unfathomable ability. It could calculate all the secrets of heaven and take the initiative in every aspect. That nameless Star Lord could actually resist Sovereign Myrtle Star's divination. It was truly unbelievable. Beside the Silver Moon Lake, Qin Feng's expression was gloomy. Even using the power of the chief god space did not gain the upper hand. It seems that Sovereign Myrtle Star's identity in the ancient era must be extraordinary. Feeling the invisible fate scar in his body, he activated the 8 desolation immortal body, and rich divine light of life washed through his body. A layer of rich light circulated around him. After cultivating the 8th level of the 8 desolation immortal heaven scroll to the sage emperor realm, Qin Feng's body seemed to contain the vitality of a continent. Although he had lost a portion of his life essence by prying into fate and suffered a backlash, it was not enough to make him feel heartache. As the 8 desolation immortal heaven scroll circulated, it was as if an endless stream of life treasures came from a northern spirit region in the endless depths of time and space. The portion of life essence he had lost was instantly replenished. The fate scar left behind by the fate backlash rapidly faded under this cleansing and finally dissipated. The white hair on his head turned black inch by inch, and his skin was sparkling. There was a faint layer of silver-white divine light circulating around his body, illuminating his entire body as if he was incomparably divine and lively. "Are you okay?" Looking at the silver-haired girl who had unknowingly arrived beside him, Qin Feng shook his head slightly. His foundation was extremely strong. Such a small backlash could not hurt him at all. "Are you all ready?" Eugene nodded lightly. "We are ready and can leave at any time." Her expression was filled with emotion. She had already obtained a portion of the truth from the Queen of Silver Moon. It was hard to imagine that the black-robed youth in front of her had actually become so powerful after just one trip to the eastern wilderness god Trove. He actually controlled a huge continent in his hands. The Silver Moon clan was entering the Divine Tree continent in an orderly manner. Using the relationship between the primeval star and the Lord God space, the Silver Moon clan completed this transition very smoothly with the Lord God space as the middle station. They went to the Lord God space and then directly entered the Nether Moon through the connection between the Lord God space and the Underworld Moon. Over there, all the arrangements were made by Qin Feng's avatar of the Netherworld King. Qin Feng's gaze swept across the surroundings. Everything that could be taken away in the Moonless Forest was taken away by the Silver Moon clan. What replaced? It was a large array that enveloped the forest. As per the Queen of Silver Moon's request, it protected the home that the Silver Moon clan had lived in for countless years. Looking at the fog formed by the array covering the entire Moonless Forest and finally enveloping the entire Silver Moon clan's homeland, Qin Feng's figure flew out. He pondered for a moment and looked in the direction of the star sect. Crepe Myrtle Star. If he wanted to take down Xingqian School, he could not avoid Crepe Myrtle Star. However, with his current strength, he was only on par with Crepe Myrtle Star. He was even at a disadvantage. Most importantly, Qin Feng did not know much about Crepe Myrtle Star's background. Chapter 12:27. Although Qin Feng was not afraid of killing, he was not brainless. Knowing that the other party was stronger than him and still charging forward, that was not bravery, but courting death. "I have to raise my cultivation level in a short time." Qin Feng frowned. There were still some treasures and inheritance locations in his memory, but those things were not of much help to him now. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. He had a breakthrough to the Boundary Emperor realm in a few years. After he entered the Divine Tree continent, many postnatal deity positions had appeared in the Spirit Sea continent, but it was expected that more postnatal deity positions would appear in succession. In a few years, there would be a culmination deity position, not to mention the imminent battle with Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch. Qin Feng had to ensure that he had the capital to fight for a connate origin deity position before the culmination deity position appeared. If necessary, he had to snatch a culmination deity position as a guarantee. After thinking about it, Qin Feng did not have many choices. There were two main choices. One was to return to the divine tree continent and think of a way to attack the other 5 continents of the primordial lands. If he could take the other continents and use the providence of the underworld to expand, he would definitely be able to condense the 12th water type heavenly law in the shortest time possible and become a boundary emperor. The second was to use the chief god space to find new lands outside the realm and plunder them. This was a huge profit. In the White Snake continent, just one plunder allowed him to condense the 11th water type heavenly law and still have a lot left. It was enough to show the benefits. As for the first choice, Qin Feng gave up on it after some consideration. It was not realistic. The divine tree continent of the primordial lands had the protection of an ancient true god, like the goddess of life, Lu Qi. The other continents were obviously guarded by existences of similar strength. The goddess of life, Lu Qi, was an ancient Khanate origin true god and was extremely powerful. Before she broke through to the lord level, her strength was not inferior to some godly kings. Those 5 existences of the same level as her were definitely not inferior to the goddess of life. How could those true gods watch their hopes of becoming a lord-level fall into Qin Feng's hands? What Qin Feng estimated the most were the peerless powerhouses that had entered the ancient lands not too long ago. Wang Daoyi, Gong Ao, and other similar existences were definitely not weaker than Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. If they were to attack other continents, they would definitely encounter them or the factions they created. On the other hand, the second choice could maximize Qin Feng's advantage. In the creator space, his real body faced the blazing white ball of Light God. With a thought, the creator space began to automatically set up a space-time dimension node. In Qin Feng's perception, this search was similar to frequency modulation, just like the radio recorded in the foreign visitor's mind. However, the frequency was no ordinary frequency. It was the frequency of spatial fluctuations. This kind of frequency seemed to be separated by countless space-time dimensions. It was extremely subtle. Only an incredible existence like the creator space could sense and capture it. The hope of this resonance was extremely small. Generally, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack to find the resonance frequency. Normally, the main god space would search based on space-time coordinates. Just like the world of White Snake, it would use the foreign visitor and a portion of the immortal Tao-nomological laws of the great emperor of the Eastern Peak as the basis for coordinates. This time, Qin Feng was not prepared to continue to the wilderness immortal Tao world for the time being. He was prepared to search for a new world outside. The wilderness immortal Tao world was too dangerous. It had many Tao ancestors and was invading other worlds. If he was discovered at this time, who knew what terrible things would happen? Qin Feng was prepared to wait for several months. But to his surprise, this time, he discovered a resonating wave that emitted a spiritual radiance at a relatively fast speed. These coordinates emitted star-like light. Although he did not know if the world indicated by these coordinates was as powerful as the wilderness immortal Tao world, Qin Feng could sense that this new space-time coordinate would definitely not be dominated by the immortal Tao-nomological laws. He could vaguely sense that the essence of the coordinates was very close to the spirit sea continent. In other words, it was similar to the star-nomological laws. However, that coordinate world was definitely not weak. Qin Feng could sense that it would not be easy for the main god space to penetrate the outer defenses of that coordinate world. However, should I transmigrate with my real body or my avatar? After thinking for a moment, Qin Feng immediately shook his head. The cost of transmigrating with his real body was too great. That plane was extremely powerful. Using his real body would not only cost too much, but it would also be too dangerous. Moreover, deity thrones were appearing one after another in the spirit sea continent. Once a suitable water-type deity throne appeared, he would definitely participate in the fight. My real body oversees the spirit sea. This time, I'll use my avatar to transmigrate. Sovereign power opened the space-time tunnel. Begin transmigration calculation. Following Qin Feng's thoughts, the entire main god palace began to emit a layer of inconceivable divine light. In the air above the main godlight sphere, a coordinate under the main god space-time power began to shine brightly. Far away, the main god space's origin energy was being mobilized and poured into the coordinate. Seeing the endless main god space's energy being consumed, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a pained look. Every time he transmigrated to the main god space, it was an investment. The space-time coordinate was like a black hole, rapidly devouring the main god space's energy. After devouring about 80% of the main god space's energy, Qin Feng vomited blood when he saw that the coordinate began to change. It transformed into a huge, invisible vortex that led to the depths of the unknown. F***CK, this is a huge loss. 80% of the main god space's origin energy is stored in it. If I don't get anything this time, the main god space will naturally need to recuperate for at least 100 years before it can regain its power. Qin Feng's expression was gloomy. The main god space's energy used to transmigrate to the White Snake world was not even 1% of the energy used this time. However, Qin Feng knew the reason. The main reason was that world was too far away, and the space-time ratio was different. In short, you get what you pay for. Doppelganger out. He stretched out a hand, and a ball of silver-white light appeared in his palm. Traces of memories were peeled off and poured into it. It carried almost all the complete memories of the main body. Of course, Qin Feng also did many things secretly. He ensured that his main body could completely control this doppelganger. Even if it was captured by some almighty, it would not hinder the main body. After revealing the main body's secrets, he sent it into the vortex where the space-time coordinate was changing. In the Star River continent, there were 33 incomparably huge galaxies in the sky. Each galaxy was formed by countless stars, spanning across the endless sky. The continent worshipped the way of cultivation. Existences without standing perception, after a certain ceremony, could sense the existence of countless stars in the 33 galaxies in the sky and absorb the power of the stars to refine their bodies. As long as they could sense their natal stars, they would be able to condense and awaken their own star martial soul, becoming a powerful soul martial artist. There are many kinds of star martial souls. There were tool martial souls, plant martial souls, beast martial souls, and so on. Every expert, once their martial soul was confirmed, it would not change for the rest of their lives. However, according to each person's aptitude, the quality of each person's martial soul would be different. Naturally, there are also different grades. Chapter 1228. Star River Continent, West Chu Empire, Giant Spirit City. Wang family. The whole city was filled with mourning, especially the Wang family's mournful atmosphere. On the tall and glorious Vermilion Gate building, there were white lanterns that represented an ominous atmosphere. This represented the death of an important figure in the Wang family. At this time, in an exquisite small attic, this seemed to be the core of the Wang family's backyard. The servants were like clouds, countless maids, and children were shuttling back and forth. At first glance, one could tell that this was not an ordinary small family. In the attic, in a small cradle, a cute baby opened his eyes and looked at the dome of the attic with a very strange expression. Damn, I killed my biological father as soon as I came here. I'm so unlucky. This baby was none other than the reincarnation of a strand of Qin Feng's divine clone. It must be said that his luck this time was not bad. His luck when he was reincarnated was also not bad. The Wang family was not only a simple rich family, but also one of the few powerful families in Giant Spirit City. This was much stronger than crossing over to the slums. Especially his nominal biological father was the most outstanding expert of this generation of the Wang family. Unfortunately, I'm afraid someone is targeting this biological father. Many lights flashed in the baby's eyes. If an ordinary person saw this kind of gaze, they would be very scared. A baby actually had such a complicated expression. In fact, there was a hidden origin about the identity of this baby. His current identity was the grandson of the Wang family, the direct descendant of the fifth branch of the current Wang family head. The current Wang family head personally named him. The Wang family head was his biological grandfather. He was called Wang Xian. His father was the most outstanding disciple of the fifth branch of the Wang family, Wang Xuanyi. His mother was the #1 beauty of the West Chu Empire, Feng Yi. In fact, Qin Feng knew that his body was actually swapped when Feng Yi gave birth. His real father was a cunning elder of the side branch. That black-hearted elder also happened to have a concubine who gave birth. When Feng Yi was attacked during childbirth, she was immersed in the thought that Wang Xuanyi was sneak-attacked, plotted against, and died in battle. She quietly swapped the real Wang Xian. A leopard cat swapped the crown prince. That black-hearted elder of the side branch, who was the biological father of Qin Feng's body, thought that he did it secretly. Little did he know that everything was in Qin Feng's eyes. However, Qin Feng was happy to do so. No matter which aristocratic family it was, there was a difference in treatment between the direct line of descent and the collateral line of descent. The direct descendants were born to wield power. As for the branch family members, they would be nurtured differently from a young age. They could only be butlers and high-level fighters. Even if he did well, he would at most become an elder of the Wang family's elder council like this body's biological father. The infant tried to sense the spiritual qi in this world, guiding it into his body to nourish it. Wisps of unusually agile, spiritual energy appeared in his soul sense. The spiritual energy carried a faint silver brilliance. Qin Feng analyzed it with his soul consciousness and discovered that this spiritual qi contained an extremely rich astral energy. He thought to himself, "Looks like this continent should be dominated by the laws of stars." Most of the foreign continents had a special kind of law of heaven and earth. For example, the Spirit Sea realm focused on the laws of martial arts and contained many other laws. However, it also rejected some other laws, such as the laws of immortal Tao. In the Spirit Sea continent, it was difficult to cultivate immortal Tao power. It was like the primeval desolate continent, where the immortal Tao was the main principle and the divine Tao was the auxiliary principle. However, the Eldritch continent was different from the Spirit Sea continent. It did not reject other laws. Obviously, the Eldritch continent was of a higher level than the Spirit Sea continent. It should be in the category of the 33 heavenly realms like the sovereign immortal realm continent and the divine realm continent. This Star River continent was obviously dominated by the laws of stars. Qin Feng tried to use some of the immortal Tao techniques he obtained from the White Snake world. He quickly discovered that the immortal Tao techniques could not be used here. He tried to use the witchcraft techniques again, but the spirit Tao techniques could not be used. Only by using the martial Tao techniques could he successfully absorb a wisp of spiritual energy. Wisps of silver-white spiritual energy entered the infant's body, causing his skin to glow like a holy infant. Feeling his internal organs being nourished, Qin Feng concluded in his heart, "Although the laws of this world are special, they're similar to those of the Spirit Sea continent. Although I can't cultivate immortal Tao and some of the martial Tao techniques are not suitable, I should be able to create the most suitable technique for myself after analyzing it for a while. Hurry up and carry the young master over. Do you maidservants and nannies want to die? You let the young master stay alone in the attic for so long. You don't even know if he's hungry or thirsty. How can you be so careless? If the young master cries, none of you will live." Qin Feng heard a familiar, angry voice in the distance outside the attic. 13th Elder, it's our negligence. We'll go right away, right away. A group of nannies and maidservants said in fear and trepidation. Soon, footsteps could be heard. A large group of nannies and maidservants ran in. Following them was a black-clothed, middle-aged man with a long beard. He looked very dignified. Looking at the infant in the cradle, a hint of affection flashed in his eyes. The infant's eyes widened. This good-looking, black-clothed, middle-aged man was none other than his cunning and treacherous biological father. His appearance was very good. His sleeves fluttered, and his eyes shone with a dignified aura. It was hard to look straight at him. Among the elders of the Wang family, his ability and status were quite outstanding. His strength far exceeded that of ordinary elders, and he was second only to the first elder and the seventh elder. If not for the fact that he was from a side branch, his status would probably be even higher. Wang Kuang was furious. After Wang Xuanyi died in battle, these people dared to neglect the fifth branch. He couldn't care less if they neglected the fifth branch, but he couldn't let his son go hungry. At this moment, a group of nannies and maidservants carried little Wang Xian and brought over a milk bottle. They all came forward to feed him. Seeing this group of people come forward with a milk bottle, Wang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. He wouldn't be able to handle it if it was done manually. After all, he was an adult. It was already awkward enough that they had to change his clothes. If they had to feed him, "What are you doing?" Wang Kuang shouted angrily when he saw a nanny come forward with a milk bottle. The nanny was so frightened that she trembled and quickly knelt on the ground. 13th Master, this is the thunder leopard's milk that the head butler just sent over. The head butler said that this milk is best for shaping a baby's body and cleansing the bones and meridians. You! In the cradle, Wang Xian's eyes lit up. The thunder leopard was a mutated beast. The milk produced by its mother was indeed very beneficial to a baby's body. This was one of the benefits of having a good background. Ordinary families, even wealthy ones, couldn't get their hands on this milk if they didn't have the power of the Wang family. Who would have thought that Wang Xian's cheap father would stare at the nannies and maidservants with a gloomy expression? Bullsh *T. Do you want the young master to become a lowly cultivator? How dare you give him something like this? Are you courting death? Go, send the young master to the fifth young mistress. Only by drinking breast milk and being nourished by the young mistress's breast milk will the young master have a chance to awaken his star martial spirit. The young master will become a spirit martial artist in the future and not those lowly, ordinary cultivators. Yes, 13th Master, we will do it immediately. The nanny nodded repeatedly and got up from the ground. She carried the baby in the cradle and headed towards Feng Yi's room. Although the nanny was flustered, she looked at the baby in her arms with a strange expression. Normally, babies would either sleep or cry for half a month. However, this young master was indeed unusual. He rarely cried, especially when he was so hungry today. His eyes were still so spirited, so lively. For a moment, the nanny even saw anticipation, complexity, and excitement in the young master's eyes. Anticipation, complexity, and excitement. The nanny felt that she must be thinking too much. How could a baby have such a complicated expression? Perhaps it was because he was the son of a spirit martial artist. She concluded that the son of a spirit martial artist would be nourished by the spirit martial artist from the womb. Most of them were full of spirituality. She was envious. In the end, spirit martial artists were the overlords of the continent. With the sound of footsteps, the group of people had already arrived in front of the fifth young Mistress Feng Yi's pavilion. Breast milk. Little did they know that the baby's mind was running wild. The baby knew that the #1 beauty of the West Shu Empire, Feng Yi, was not his biological mother. Chapter 1229. 6 years later, in a Wang family mansion, the Star Martial Spirit Awakening ceremony was being held in a huge round arena. In the middle of the arena, there was an altar with a huge bronze cauldron on top of it. A large number of Wang family elders and disciples gathered around the circular sparring field. Their gazes were fixed on the altar in the center. Beside the altar, a few elders in white elder robes whispered to each other from time to time. Their gazes would occasionally land on a 7- or 8-year-old youth on the altar. I wonder what Wang Li's aptitude is like. What kind of star martial spirit will he awaken? What kind can it be? Our Wang family is famous for the 8-winged purple flame lion bloodline. Most of the Wang family disciples will awaken a lion-type martial spirit. You can't say it like that. Even if they have the same bloodline, there are 6 and 9 grades. The 8-winged purple flame lion is one of the few supreme grade martial spirits in our West Chu Empire. Only a few people in the Wang family can awaken the 8-winged purple flame lion beast spirit. Most of them are 2-winged low grade, 4-winged middle grade, and 6-winged upper grade martial spirits are rare. Wang Li is not of the direct bloodline. He is just an ordinary disciple of the side branch. I think it will be difficult for him to awaken a 2-winged purple flame lion. These side branch disciples always want to reach the heavens in one step, daydreaming. I don't think it is strange for him to awaken a trash martial spirit. A group of laughter sounded in his ears. Wang Xian closed his eyes and looked indifferent. The 6-year-old Wang Xian looked like he was 10 years old. He closed his eyes and had a kind of ethereal temperament that was different from the other young boys. After a glance, it was unforgettable. On the other side of the stage, many elders were looking at the 5-6-year-old boys. Many of them had a strange look in their eyes. This Wang Xian was a famous child prodigy in the Wang family. At the age of 6, he did not need anyone to take care of him. He could move freely and learn to speak. At the age of 2, he could read. At the age of 3, he learned almost all the languages and could read many classics in the Wang family library. At the age of 5, he was like a little adult. He was steady and wise. This Wang Xian was not like an ordinary 6-year-old child. Ordinary 6-year-old children would still act spoiled in front of their parents and only know how to play. Wang Xian, on the other hand, would often stay in the library for an entire day. Many of the older generation experts in the clan were full of praise for this child. Many of them took a few glances before looking away. So what if he read a lot of books? The most important thing was still his martial spirit. The quality of the martial soul was the key to becoming an expert. If he awakened a trash martial spirit, no matter how many books he read, he would still be trash. Wang Xian's expression was calm. In the past 6 years, he had tried his best to behave normally. However, even so, he had gained quite a bit of fame in the Wang clan. For example, genius, prodigy, and so on. His gaze landed on the 2 youths on the left who were like stars surrounding the moon. These 2 youths, one in green and the other in purple, were about 12 or 13 years old. Many of the Wang family's elders and disciples were looking at the 2 of them. These 2 could be said to be the outstanding talents of this generation of Wang clan disciples. One of them was Wang Yi, the purple-clothed young man from the main branch. The other was from his second branch, Wang Yuan, the green-clothed young man. Before the age of 12 or 13, the 2 of them had already cultivated their soul power to 70% of the human rank. This was not far from the peak of the human rank 9th layer. Once they crossed it, they would be at the yellow rank. Among 1,000 human rank martial artists, there might not even be one yellow rank martial artist. However, no one knew that Wang Xian had already cultivated his soul power to the 9th layer of the human rank a year ago. If it wasn't for the fact that his martial spirit had not awakened and he had obtained a soul ring, he would have already advanced. However, Wang Xian was secretly curious about the martial spirit. The martial spirit was settled in the bloodline. Only by summoning the power of the stars on the altar would there be a chance of awakening it. The quality of the martial spirit was divided into high and low ranks. The lowest was the blank martial spirit. That was also called a trash martial spirit or a trash martial spirit. The blank martial spirit had no value. Although it could form an attack, the strength of the attack was not enough to kill a chicken. Next were the low-grade martial spirits, middle-grade martial spirits, high-grade martial spirits, and the top transcendent grade martial spirits, and the rumored peerless grade martial spirits. However, the peerless grade martial spirits were too rare. However, Wang Xian knew that the martial spirit of the West Chu Empire's royal family was the peerless grade martial spirit. There were many types of martial spirits. The main ones were the tool spirit, beast spirit, plant spirit, and so on. It's awakened. While he was deep in thought, a cry of surprise suddenly sounded in his ears. At this moment, Qin Feng's extremely sensitive soul could feel a surge of mysterious power exploding from the altar in the middle. He opened his eyes, and a layer of brilliant starlight shook from the altar, accompanied by a domineering and direct roar of a lion king. A burly lion covered in purple flames appeared behind the young man on the altar. Two purple flames formed a pair of wings, making the giant lion look even more mystical. Two-winged purple flame lion, low-grade martial spirit. Next. Seeing this scene, one of the hosting elders on the side suddenly shouted indifferently. Soon, the strange scene disappeared, and the young man on the altar stood up. He stretched out a hand, and a miniature two-winged purple flame lion appeared in his palm. He slightly pursed his lips, but there was not much joy on his face. A low-grade martial spirit was, after all, a low-grade martial spirit. At most, his future achievements would be to take charge of some business in a branch of the Wong family. In the eyes of many ordinary people, such a future was already a great achievement. However, in the eyes of the few tyrants in the giant holy city, the Wong family, it was really like dust. How could this not make people depressed? Next, Wang Yu. Soon, a layer of gray light burst out from the altar and turned into a faint shadow of a two-winged purple flame lion, which looked extremely unstable. White-grade martial spirit. Next. The young man, named Wang Yu, was almost dragged down the altar. Many people looked at the pale and dazed young man and shook their heads. There was pity in their eyes. A white-grade martial spirit could not absorb any soul power. This was the byproduct of a failed martial spirit awakening. It was equivalent to a trash existence and did not have any value. A person who had awakened a martial spirit could not break through the yellow rank, no matter how much he cultivated in his lifetime. One could imagine his future. Next, Wang San. One by one, many disciples of the Wang family walked up the altar one after another, except for a few failed white-grade martial spirits. Most of them awakened low-grade martial spirits. Among them, the majority were the purple flame lion martial spirits. Among them, there were also a few who awakened other martial spirits, such as the plant type and the tool type. These mutated individuals might have been influenced by their mother's bloodline. In general, there were very few middle-grade martial spirits among the branch families. Soon, it was the turn of a white-clothed child. In fact, Qin Feng had been observing the white-clothed child. He was only around 6 years old. The white-clothed child looked very determined and nervous. However, he looked like he was made of jade and was exceptionally handsome. Paying attention to this child was not because Qin Feng had changed his hobby and liked boys, but because this person's identity was not ordinary. He was the son of the 13th elder, Wang Quang, Wang Xian. In fact, he was the real Wang Xian who had been replaced. Chapter 1230. Although 13th elder Wang Quang was black-hearted, he didn't kill the real Wang Xian. Wang Xian's expression was a little strange as he looked at Wang Xian, who was dressed in white satin and looked like a quiet young master. All these years, he had been living on the same bed with Feng Yi. He was an adult, not a real baby. Moreover, Feng Yi was indeed worthy of the title of the #1 beauty in West Chu. Her figure and appearance were almost flawless. It was no wonder that some experts wanted to kill Wang Xian's father, Wang Shuani. Such a beauty was a gift from heaven and earth. It was no longer enough to describe her as a disaster. Although Wang Shuani was a big shot, how could he enjoy such a beauty? Scenes of him sleeping with Feng Yi all these years flashed through his mind, and he smiled. At this moment, many people were looking at Wang Xian. 13th elder was the representative of the collateral branch in the Wang family. He firmly controlled a part of the Wang family's interests and had the support of many outstanding figures in the collateral branch. No one could be underestimated. Even the Patriarch. Wang Xian started early, and his aptitude is not bad. He reached the 3rd level of the human class at the age of 6. If he had a few more years, reaching the 7th or 8th level of the human class should be easy. That's right. 13th elder's cultivation and talent are the best of our generation. Like father, like son. How can Wang Xian's talent be weak? Yes, 13th elder broke through to the Xian class a few days ago. I'm afraid there aren't many Xian class experts in the three major families of giant spiritual city. On the high platform, many elders looked at Wang Kuang with a hint of respect. Wang Kuang stroked his black beard with an indifferent expression. This Wang Kuang has been cultivating for many years, and his scheming has deepened. No wonder he can hold the hearts of the elders in the collateral branch. This person really can't be underestimated. No wonder he's called Black Wolf. The elders at the side secretly looked at each other and saw the shock and fear in each other's eyes. Wang Xian's martial soul. Trash martial soul. A huge fluctuation surged on the altar, and the huge pressure far exceeded that of an ordinary high-grade martial soul. However, in front of the elders and disciples of the Wang family was a grayish-white, basketball-sized, wingless purple flame lion. Wow, so he's a piece of trash? As expected, the side branches always produce such trash. So what if his father is an elder of the Wang clan? A side branch bloodline is still a side branch bloodline. This kind of trash doesn't make much of a difference. The group of Wang family elders and disciples discussed fervently as they stared disdainfully at the 6-year-old white-robed child. Many of the elders on the high platform shook their heads as they looked at Wang Kuang. Contrary to their expectations, this elder was unexpectedly calm. Wang Kuang smiled. Of course, he was calm. He wasn't even his own son. So what if he was a piece of trash? With his power, he could afford to raise a piece of trash. His hope was there. He looked at the expressionless Wang Xian and cheered inwardly. Such a state of mind that could remain unfazed by honor and disgrace was destined to be extraordinary. However, he couldn't help but feel puzzled. In the past, Wang Xuanyi could be said to be extremely talented. His mutated transcendent martial spirit was said to be comparable to a peerless martial spirit. Feng Yi's aptitude was also unusual. She was a famous genius of the Feng family in the West Chu Empire. Logically speaking, the son of the two of them shouldn't be a piece of trash. Wang Xian was carried up by 2 Wang family disciples in a daze. Wang Kuang waved his hand slightly, and 2 maids came forward to bring him down. After that, the martial spirit awakening ceremony continued. The direct descendants entered and walked up the altar. Trash? I'm afraid not. On the side, Qin Feng slightly closed his eyes and secretly shook his head. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to feel the strangeness of the grayish-white wingless lion. His original body was an invincible king, so he could indeed feel that slight difference. The gray wingless lion's nature was far different from an ordinary blank martial spirit. Although, after reincarnation, his powerful soul was sealed in his body, and he couldn't pinpoint what was different about it. This feeling was unmistakable. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Maybe he can counterattack? Is the protagonist mode about to start? Qin Feng's expression was strange. However, he still lacked a few villains to slap his face. That's not right. Isn't his identity a villain? He stole someone's identity, status, and everything else. Qin Feng had a feeling that perhaps the martial spirit he awakened this time wouldn't be too simple. This way, he would be able to achieve the initial impression of a villain. This is really exciting. Qin Feng was eager to give it a try. Of course, this also sounded the alarm for Qin Feng. The appearance of the Son of Providence was usually accompanied by a calamity. For example, the invasion of an extraterrestrial expert like him. This was very likely one of the countermeasures of the Xing He continent. Wang Yumei of the 6th branch, high-grade martial spirit 6-winged purple flame lion. The current head of the Wang family had a total of more than 10 sons and 8 or 9 daughters. However, the direct descendants only had the 6th branch. The head of this generation of the 6th branch was Wang Xinyan. This head of the 6th branch was not outstanding. He had only been married for a few years. His wife was the daughter of another big family in the giant holy city. At present, the only one under his command was Wang Yumei. Here to explain, the son and daughter of the main wife can be called the son and daughter of the main wife. The children of the concubines are all concubines, and the collateral family refers to the clansmen outside the 3 generations of the main family. On the altar, after sending away a beautiful 11 or 12-year-old girl with a happy face, the presiding elder shouted loudly, "Next, Wang Xian of the 5th branch, please come to the stage." Hearing this voice, Qin Feng's spirit was slightly shaken. At this moment, it seemed that all the elders and disciples of the Wang family had their eyes on Wang Xian, who was like an elegant young master. In a loft, behind a curtain covered by pink gauze, a little maid excitedly said to a tall woman beside her, "Madam, it's our young master's turn. Look." This was an extremely beautiful woman. Her entire body was overflowing with a mature aura like a peach. She was a peerless beauty. Even though she was separated by the pink veil, many Wang family elders couldn't help but feel their blood boil and their heartbeats quicken just by looking at her through the veil. Although she didn't say anything, a pair of eyes as bright and beautiful as autumn water stared at Wang Xian. Following her gaze, many gazes fell on Wang Xian. Their eyes were red with jealousy and hatred. To be able to spend time with such a beauty, even if it meant losing a few years of their lives, they would be willing. On the high platform, in the elders' seats, Wang Quang's expression was calm, neither happy nor angry. However, the hand hidden in his sleeves was tightly clenched. On the edge of the circular arena, Qin Feng stood up from his seat. At this moment, an 11 or 12-year-old youth suddenly laughed. "Wang Xian, you are a famous prodigy in the Wang family. This time, don't disappoint us. If you awaken a trash martial soul, I'm afraid we won't be able to justify it. The direct descendants do not raise trash." He was dressed in luxurious silk and looked exceptionally delicate. This was because his lips were thin, giving him a harsh and sharp impression. Wang Menglin, the son of a concubine of the eldest branch. Everyone in the Wang family knew that this person was Wang Ye's lapdog. Qin Feng glanced at him. Next to him were Wang Yi from the eldest branch and Wang Yuan from the 2nd branch. Wang Xuanyi from the 5th branch, who was also his biological father in name, was the most popular candidate for the next head of the Wang family. He even overshadowed the eldest and 2nd sons of the 1st and 2nd sons of the 1st branch. Ever since Wang Xuanyi's death, these people had caused trouble for him. He was not surprised that they would jump out now. He calmly walked across the arena and entered the altar from the side of the steps. Chapter 12:31. The sparring field quieted down. Everyone's eyes fell on the steps and the calm toddler who was slowly walking onto the altar. They were looking forward to his performance. The 6-year-old toddler looked calm under everyone's gaze. As expected of this elder's son, on the high platform, the expressionless elder Heilang was excited and proud when he saw this scene. If it weren't for the fact that he had to keep this a secret, he would have told the truth immediately. This kid is not ordinary. On the side, Wang Xianling, the head of the main branch, and Wang Xianyuan, the head of the 2nd branch, looked at each other and were secretly shocked. More than that, they felt uncomfortable. It was one thing for them to be suppressed by Wang Xuanyi earlier. Now, their son was not as good as him. How could they not be annoyed? Wang Xian walked up to the altar, sat cross-legged, and closed his eyes slightly. Seeing that he had sat down, an elder who presided over the ceremony came forward. He held a silver scepter in his hand. On the scepter, there was a pigeon egg-sized gem that emitted a faint silver starlight. He raised the scepter and pointed at the altar. An invisible starlight shot into the altar. Buzz! It was as if something crucial had been activated on the altar. Silver runes floated into his body one after another. Warmth. It was as if all the pores on his body were soaked in a hot spring. His whole body was bathed in the warm sunlight. It was indescribably comfortable. The warm aura penetrated deep into his body. Qin Feng could clearly feel that the soul power of the perfect human rank in his body began to fluctuate. Then, under the guidance of the silver-white runes, an unknown power was guided out of his body. He couldn't help but stretch out his palm. It was as if something was born on his palm. What kind of martial soul would it be? Was it a purple flame lion? or some other kind of martial soul? If it was a purple flame lion, how many wings would it have? In the sparring field, everyone seemed to hold their breath and looked forward to it. It should be a good martial soul. It should be at least a middle grade or upper grade martial soul. The elders who presided over the awakening ceremony were the closest to the altar. Their eyes lit up slightly. They could clearly feel the waves of pressure coming from the depths of the altar. The level of pressure exceeded that of an upper-grade martial soul in the blink of an eye. It seems like our Wong clan is going to have a genius with a transcendent grade martial spirit. The elders looked at each other with excitement written all over their faces. To them, the greatest joy was to unearth more geniuses for their families. Geniuses were the future of a family. The appearance of a genius with a high-grade martial spirit was enough for a small clan to prosper for 100 years. If a genius with a transcendent martial spirit were to appear, the Wong clan would not have to worry about the succession for a few hundred years. Soon, their expressions darkened. In the center of the altar, the intense starlight gradually dissipated. Wang Xian raised his hand, and a wisp of light blue brilliance appeared. A light blue vine sapling appeared on his palm. Qin Feng was taken aback. It was a plant-type martial soul. However, the quality was indeed very high, and the power it exuded far exceeded that of the others who were testing it. It's the water spirit vine, a plant-type martial soul. How could one of our direct descendants awaken such an unorthodox martial soul? The group of elders discussed animatedly, each with different looks in their eyes. The water spirit vine? 13th Master. I remember that Madame Hua's martial soul was also the water spirit vine. It seems that the 11th young master, Wang Xian, should interact more with you. Perhaps it would be convenient for you to ask for guidance more often. Wang Xianling from the eldest branch mocked. Wang Kuang was shocked, but he soon recovered. Wang Xianling was just using this opportunity to squeeze the 5th branch. He said indifferently with an expressionless face, "All right, as long as the 11th young master is willing, the door of my family will always be open for him." Elder Wang Kuang is very generous. However, not everyone is qualified to be the teacher of such a genius with a transcendent martial spirit. Next to him, an elder in a black robe chuckled and said. He glanced at Wang Kuang with a cold smile on his face. The second elder of the Wang clan, Wang Yinwu, one of the few elders in the Wang clan who could compete with Wang Kuang. All right, all of you quiet down. As elders, don't you have any scruples about your image if you lose your composure in front of so many juniors? The first elder at the side said. Everyone looked over. It was a white-robed elder with white hair and a ruddy complexion. His face was ruddy, and there was a trace of vicissitude in his eyes. The first elder, Wang Ying, was the strongest person in the Wang clan other than the old master. Since the old master announced that he would go into seclusion a few years ago, he had been the one in charge of the Wang clan. Wang Xian from the 5th branch, transcendent martial spirit. Next, Qing Lang's announcement caused an unusual uproar in the sparring field. A transcendent martial spirit was too rare. Many people looked at the young man walking down from the altar with a strange look in their eyes. They were envious and jealous. It's just a water spirit vine. Even if it's a transcendent martial spirit, it's common knowledge that a plant martial spirit will automatically drop a grade when compared to other types of martial spirits. At most, it can only be regarded as an upper-grade martial spirit. There's nothing special about it. My big brother and the rest will definitely surpass you. Wang Xian glanced at him. Wang Menglin, the generous eldest son of the concubine, was so jealous that his eyes were red. Wang Xian was too lazy to care about this jealous guy. For the current Wang Xian, with the awakening of his martial spirit, the following cultivation path would be smooth. As long as he hunted a spirit beast and obtained a spirit ring, he would be able to officially break through to the yellow rank. The strong people in the Xing continent started from the human rank, followed by the yellow rank, black rank, earth rank, and heaven rank. Every rank had 9 levels. To break through, one had to hunt a spirit beast and obtain a spirit ring at the 9th level. Generally speaking, a human rank martial artist could only bear a spirit ring of less than 100 years. This was the first spirit ring. Of course, the stronger the soul ring, the stronger the ability obtained after being strengthened would be far stronger than ordinary experts. Wang Xian had been cultivating since he was young. In addition, he created the nameless soul scripture that was most suitable for his current body. His physique was abnormally strong. Generally, a human rank martial artist's first spirit ring would be less than 100 years. He estimated that his limit should be far beyond this limit. It could even be hundreds or even thousands of years. But before that, there was still a problem. That was the direction of the martial spirit's development. Hunting a spirit beast was different. The spirit ring obtained would affect the martial spirit's ability. Wang Xian thought about the water spirit vine. He didn't have many choices at the moment. It could be the spirit transforming vine, the spirit devouring vine, or simply the frost vine. While thinking, he unknowingly passed through many attics and entered Feng Yi's boudoir. Chapter 1232. Young Master, Madam has been waiting for you in the attic for a long time. At the door, a beautiful girl in green seemed to be waiting for Wang Xian's arrival. Wang Xian raised his head and glanced at the maid in green. Ning Xiang. She was the only one left among the few maids that Feng Yi brought from the Feng family. The others had all perished in the battle 6 years ago. Ning Xiang looked at the young master in white with concern. Young master, you're back so early? Didn't you chat with young master Yi and young master Yuan? Wang Xian shook his head. He wasn't a real child. What was there to be angry with a group of brats? To him, it was to speed up his cultivation and have the power to protect himself. He was very clear that there were many people secretly watching them. In addition, since he used Wang Xian's identity, he had to bear the karma brought by this identity. Of course, before that, he had to figure out the general trend of this world. As long as he reversed the general trend, he could speed up his growth. However, the most important thing now is the problem with Feng Yi. Wang Xian stepped into the attic. Just now, when he saw Feng Yi and Ning Xiang leaving halfway, he felt that Feng Yi's old illness might be acting up again. In the spacious attic, Wang Xian felt a chill coming from the center when he stepped in. Feng Yi's boudoir showed a pink style, and a light muslin blocked everything inside. Pushing aside a few layers of curtains, Wang Xian saw a hazy figure inside. Sizzle. Suddenly, a thick heat wave rushed out along with the cold air from the muslin curtain. The blazing heat wave swept out, and the temperature in the entire room seemed to have increased by more than 10 degrees. It's acting up again? Wang Xian frowned. Behind him, Ning Xiang walked in and nodded slightly. 6 years ago, when Madame was in labor, a group of people used a strange and vicious power to injure Madame. Since then, Madame's injury has never recovered. These years, it has also triggered the Phoenix's internal fire, which has mutated into an extremely vicious internal fire. It has mixed into Madame's Phoenix martial spirit. If it wasn't for the cold air of the manifold, mysterious ice essence suppressing it, and young masters help to vent this vicious fire, Madame is afraid. Ning Xiang's eyes flashed with worry. Wang Xian waved his hand. Don't worry about it. You can leave first. They are guarding outside. Yes. Ning Xiang nodded. After Ning Xiang left, Wang Xian looked at the last thin curtain in front of him. He pushed it aside and stepped inside. A wave of scalding hot air rushed over. This strange heat seemed to have a terrifying power that could erode one's bones. A layer of light blue fluorescence appeared on his body. Soul energy. This was a mysterious power that he cultivated, something that was unique to soul martial artists. Abundant soul power surged in his body like a great river, almost bursting out of his body, almost reaching the limit of the full circle of the human rank. Wang Xian was still unable to release his spirit power, which was a unique ability of yellow-rank spirit martial artists. Only after forming his first soul ring and strengthening his other soul rings could he achieve this. The surging heat wave was repelled by the faint soul power around his body. Wang Xian raised his eyes, and a beautiful woman who was practically naked appeared in front of him. She sat on top of an ice bed that was carved out of ice. The cold air was hazy, and the vigorous mist from back then outlined her astonishing curves. Even if Wang Xian had the state of mind of his main body, he couldn't help but feel a surge of emotions. But immediately, his expression changed. On the bed carved from ice, the stunningly beautiful woman suddenly let out a painful groan. A blazing heat was emitted from her delicate body. Her white, jade-like skin was flushed red like braised prawns. Her delicate body was straight, and her delicate and elegant eyebrows were dripping with sweat. Even in the cold, she was sweating like syrup. It was obvious that she was suffering from great torture. She didn't seem to notice that her hair bun had broken at some point, and her black hair fell down like a waterfall. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted, and her teeth were biting into her cherry lips, bleeding. It was enough to see the pain and torture she was suffering. Wang Xian frowned and thought in his heart, 6 years ago, that person suddenly killed his way into the Wang mansion and killed Wang Xuani. After that, he clearly had the chance to kill Feng Yi, but he didn't. Instead, he used an evil method to transform Feng Yi's phoenix fire into a kind of internal phoenix fire. This is destroying Feng Yi bit by bit. The phoenix divine fire was extremely overbearing, and it could be said to be the Feng family's direct inheritance. This kind of divine fire was known to burn all the heavens. How terrifying would it be if such a divine fire was transformed into an internal fire? No matter how chaste a woman was, after several years of calcination, once it broke out, it would be light for her to become a man-crazy woman. The person who did this obviously hated Feng Yi to the core, which was why he was so vicious. At the same time, Wang Xian was also secretly vigilant. Others didn't know about Feng Yi's cultivation, but he knew that she was definitely an Earth Realm powerhouse. Most of the Earth Realm powerhouses were famous overlords. If there was an Earth Realm powerhouse among the 3 major families of Giant Spiritual City, it was enough to easily crush the other 2 families and unify Giant Spiritual City. Wang Xuani was a disciple of the Thousand Stars sect, and he was one of the best among the inner disciples of the sect. He was not an ordinary person. To be able to easily kill Wang Xuani and plot against Feng Yi, he was definitely an Earth Realm powerhouse. This aroused Wang Xian's vigilance. That person killed Wang Xuani and plotted against Feng Yi. He was afraid that he wouldn't easily let him, the only son of Wang Xuani. However, the first thing to do now was to help Feng Yi suppress the mutated phoenix internal fire. In Wang Xian's eyes, if she could achieve internal and external unity, perhaps Feng Yi could benefit from this disaster and break through the heaven realm in one fell swoop, becoming an overlord. However, this was basically impossible in a short period of time, unless there was a peerless powerhouse suppressing the mutated phoenix true fire for Feng Yi. Wang Xian's original body, Qin Feng, could do it, but he had not grown up yet, and the power of his original body could not be transmitted over. The only way now was to use other methods to vent the phoenix true fire. Although it could treat the symptoms and not the root cause, it could be very effective in helping Feng Yi vent the mutated divine fire. It could also delay the time of the eruption of the poisonous fire in the body. At least her brain would not be burned, and she would become a love-struck fool. There were many ways to help Feng Yi vent the poisonous fire. The first choice was, of course, yin and yang mutual cultivation. Through the power of yin and yang, the poisonous fire in the body would be melted through the power of yin and yang taiji. But this method, not to mention whether Feng Yi would agree or not, Wang Xian would never agree. The other way was, while Wang Xian was thinking, his eyes had already seen Feng Yi unconsciously being burned by the poisonous fire. She had already lost part of her reason, and her whole body was torn apart. Wang Xian, who was dazed by the scene, had a dazed expression. Chapter 1233. In the quiet boudoir, Qin Feng sat cross-legged on the floor. His face was like fire, and his body seemed to be burning with a flame. If one looked carefully, one could smell a milky white fragrance from the corner of his mouth. Beside him, Feng Yi had already put on her clothes. Her fine black hair draped over her shoulders like a waterfall. Her red phoenix eyes were bright and beautiful. Dressed in white, her temperament was extremely sacred and pure. However, there was a trace of residual charm in the corner of her eyes that added 10,000 types of charm to her. She looked at Wang Xian worriedly, but when she thought of the process of detoxification, she suddenly became flushed. This method was proposed by Wang Xian last year. She didn't agree at first, but she couldn't help but ask Wang Xian for help. However, it was proven that this could indeed stop the phoenix poison fire in her body. The sore and swollen feeling in his chest had disappeared along with the water being sucked away. Sizzle. At this moment, the high temperature emitted by Wang Xian, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor, gradually decreased. The redness on his face gradually dissipated. He opened his eyes, and a threatening aura was emitted. Feng Yi sensed it slightly, and a trace of surprise flashed through her watery eyes. This aura was not inferior to some yellow stage experts. She carefully sized up Wang Xian, but the aura he emitted was still only at the peak of the mortal stage. She was not disappointed. A 6-year-old at the peak of the mortal stage, this talent was not low in any force. On the ground, Wang Xian opened his eyes, and then he heard Feng Yi's pleasant and slightly concerned voice. "Xian, are you okay?" Wang Xian opened his eyes and met the concerned eyes of the beautiful young woman. He shook his head and asked, "No, I'm born with a pure and flawless water physique. I can purify this kind of fire poison. I just try to use the phoenix poison to refine my body. I didn't expect it to strengthen my body by a lot." Wang Xian stretched out a hand and casually slashed. Like a divine knife that could split the sky, his palm slashed the chair beside him and cut it in half like tofu. That thing can be used as a body refining elixir. The beautiful young woman's voice trembled slightly, and her beautiful face was burning. Her delicate body was a little weak. Wang Xian also realized that something was wrong and immediately stopped talking. The entire boudoir seemed to have fallen into an indescribable atmosphere. After a long while, Wang Xian coughed and said, "Are you feeling better?" "Xian." The beautiful young woman shot a glance at the white-clothed young master. Her limpid eyes carried a hint of coquettishness. It was as if she was blaming Wang Xian for touching her sore spot. But soon after, her expression turned serious. "You have to prepare well. After the awakening ceremony, your martial soul has been exposed. I'm afraid those people won't let you off easily. Whether it's the other two big clans or your father's enemies, they won't allow another expert with a transcendent martial soul to appear in the Wang clan." As she spoke, a trace of worry appeared in the beautiful young woman's eyes. She wasn't afraid that those people would deal with her. Although the fire poison in her body often flared up, it was precisely because of the intensity of the fire poison that her cultivation progressed extremely quickly these past few years. His Earth rank soul power was already close to the peak of the Earth rank, and he wasn't far from the Heaven rank. Moreover, she had a strong background. Even if she were to elope, she would not be able to escape. Did she think that those people would not dare to do anything to her? But Wang Xian was different. Before his martial soul had awakened, those people might not have been willing to take the risk. However, it was different now. A transcendent martial soul, this talent was enough to make those forces fearful. Wang Xian's expression was calm. "Don't worry, I will protect myself well. However, during this period of time, I have to go to the giant Spirit Mountain range to look for soul beasts and obtain my first soul ring. I need you to help me fight for 2 months." He looked at the beautiful woman with pleading eyes. This was something that Wang Xian had thought about carefully. This world was a little special. If he didn't obtain his first soul ring, no matter what, it seemed that he wouldn't be able to break through the bottleneck of his body. The only way now was to go to the wild to look for soul beasts. Of course, The Wang family also reared many types of soul beasts in the ranch outside the city. However, in Wang Xian's eyes, most of them were trash. Killing those soul beasts to obtain soul rings would only waste his talent. You're saying that you want to go to the giant spirit mountain range alone? Feng Yi looked at the white-clothed young man in surprise. Her watery eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor. After a moment, she nodded. Indeed, your soul power has reached the peak of the human rank. If you want to break through the yellow rank and open your dantian, you can only condense your first soul ring. The giant spirit mountain range is the largest place to produce soul beasts within 1,000 miles of the giant spirit city. Only there can you obtain the best soul rings. Advance to the yellow rank. Moreover, you just awakened during the martial spirit ceremony. It's good to avoid the storm. Feng Yi paused when she said this. Her beautiful eyes gently glanced at the dazed young man in white. However, I can't let you go to the giant spirit mountain range alone. I have to accompany you. This, Wang Xian actually wanted to say that he didn't need anyone to accompany him. However, looking at the beautiful young woman's doting eyes, he immediately swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. All right. That night, in the dark night, in the second half of the night, a faint red light flew out from Feng Yi's pavilion. Its speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was dozens of miles away. After a moment, it disappeared into the clouds high up in the sky. Isn't it not good for us to leave the Wang family like this? Being grabbed by Feng Yi with one hand, hugging the beautiful young woman's shockingly flexible waist, and a fragrant body fragrance like orchids and musk entered his nose. The white-clothed young man muttered, "The Wang family is just a bunch of good-for-nothings. Don't worry about them. Moreover, we can go and come back quickly." That voice was extremely pleasant to the ear, soft and gentle to the bone. However, it carried a cold disdain. Hearing this, Wang Xian immediately stopped talking. Feng Yi obviously looked down on this Wang family. At this moment, Feng Yi was wearing a white palace dress. Her extremely hot figure was highlighted under the white palace dress. Coupled with her angel-like, beautiful jade face, she was like a holy and flawless, beautiful saintess. He saw two fiery red, flame-like wings growing out from the white-clothed, beautiful woman's shoulders. Phoenix wings. Wang Xian knew that it was the power of the phoenix martial spirit. When a spirit martial artist reached the earth rank, their strength was extremely tyrannical. Not only could they fuse with the martial spirit into armor, they could also display some more miraculous effects. It could be said that the gap between the various realms of spirit martial artists was very large. In Wang Xian's opinion, the main thing was still the miraculous effects of the spirit ring. Woo-woo! A terrifying wolf's howl below his feet interrupted Qin Feng's thoughts. He looked down and saw a barren plain under the clouds. On the plain, tigers and wolves roamed about. Those were large, jet-black wolves with dark green eyes. Nether great wolves? Wang Xian narrowed his eyes. These pitch-black giant wolves were a type of wolf-shaped soul beast. Most of them had average strength, but there might be a few nether wolf kings that had reached 100 years of age. Killing this type of soul beast would generally strengthen one's eyesight, claws, teeth, and smell. Many adventurers favored these wolf-shaped soul beasts. However, the skills of these wolf-shaped soul beasts, after being strengthened by the spirit ring, were useless to Wang Xian. Chapter 1234. Why? Have you taken a fancy to the Nether Wolf King? Glancing at Wang Xian's expression, Feng Yi followed Wang Xian's gaze and smiled. There are a few 300-year Nether Wolf Kings on the ground. The quality of their soul rings is not bad. They can strengthen your 5 senses and even enhance your 6th sense. Wang Xian shook his head. The enhancement of the 5 senses was extremely beneficial to martial artists, but it was useless to him. He was born with a strong 6th sense. What he needed now was a water-type soul ring that could rapidly increase his combat strength. Seeing that Wang Xian was not interested, Feng Yi did not persuade him anymore. Although the Nether Wolf King was not bad, it was not a good match. In the distance, The towering mountain range of the giant spirit mountain range was already in their vision. Creak, creak. Just at this moment, a strange and concentrated sound of wings flapping could be heard. What's that sound? Wang Xian's expression changed as he looked ahead. A group of black shadows suddenly appeared under the moonlight and rushed towards the two of them. As they got closer, his expression changed as he saw the true appearance of the group of black shadows. They were pitch-black bats the size of pots and pans. Their silver-white eyes were like fireflies in the darkness, and their fangs were reeking of blood. This was a type of flying soul beast that lived in groups, moonlight bats. If an ordinary yellow rank expert encountered a group of moonlight bats, they would most likely die. Wang Xian's eyes were sharp. In front of this group of moonlight bats, he saw an extremely different blood-red bat. That was a blood moon bat king. Normally, only a bat king above 500 years old would have the chance to mutate into a blood moon bat king. The blood energy fluctuation on its body was extremely terrifying. It was enough to threaten some yellow rank level 7 soul martial artists. Our luck is not bad. We haven't even entered the giant spirit mountain range, and we've already encountered such a high-quality creature. Xian, it's more suitable to be your water spirit vine's first soul ring. What do you think? The beautiful white-clothed young woman looked at the white-clothed child under her ribs. Her watery eyes carried a hint of joy. Her body emitted a black rank aura. She did not chase away the moonlight bats, but only maintained her deterrence. Feeling the black rank aura fluctuation, the group of moonlight bats fell into chaos, but then they started circling around. The moonlight bats were ferocious and loved to suck blood. The more powerful the living being, the more beneficial it would be to them. Wang Xian pondered. He had seen this type of soul beast in one of the Wang family's soul beast diagrams. All in all, the soul rings condensed from killing such soul beasts were not bad. In particular, the Blood Moon Bat King's soul ring had a certain proportion of the bloodthirsty martial soul and the ultrasonic sensing ability. This was one of the more practical soul ring abilities. Bloodthirst, after being activated, would awaken his martial spirit, giving him the ability to devour and refine his opponent's blood essence to replenish his soul power. And the ultrasonic sensing ability was an extremely rare auxiliary ability. Ultrasonic waves included echolocation, ultrasonic vibration, and other abilities. However, Wang Xian's martial soul was the water spirit vine of the plant element. Thus, it was unlikely that he would be able to trigger the bloodthirst effect and evolve the water spirit vine into a bloodthirsty vine. However, after thinking for a moment, Qin Feng shook his head. What a pity! Seeing Wang Xian shake his head, Feng Yi did not force it either, but she still felt some pity in her heart. The Blood Moon Bat King was a rare soul beast. It was a rare soul beast, and its strengthening abilities had a lot of potential, especially its ultrasonic sensing ability. It was very useful in the early stages of a soul martial artist. Foresight was better than foresight. Feng Yi did not know that Wang Xian's battle talent was already close to the Tao. Her sensing ability was much stronger than the Blood Moon Bat King's ultrasonic sensing ability. Her expression turned serious as she released a portion of her Earth rank aura. Squeak, squeak. Feeling the terrifying aura, a group of greedy bats that were circling around panicked. They flapped their wings as though they were frightened and flew away. After scaring away a group of moonlight bats, the two of them were already above the giant spiritual mountain range. Looking at the undulating mountain range in the distance, they could not see the end of it. Wang Xian's eyes lit up. Although the giant spiritual mountain range was not one of the top 10 soul beast holy grounds in the Star River continent, it was still a famous hunting ground for mid-grade soul beasts in the West Chu Empire. In this hunting ground, there were many mid-grade and low-grade soul beasts, and it was famous for its variety of soul beasts. It could be considered a holy ground in the giant spiritual county. Every year, many soul martial artists would head to the giant spiritual mountain range to hunt for soul rings. From high up in the sky, Wang Xian could smell the smoke in the sea of clouds. Clearly, even though it was a dangerous night in the giant spiritual mountain range, there were still people camping in the mountains. "Xianer, do you want to rest?" Looking at the white-clothed young master beside her, Feng Yi felt a little heartache. She smoothed the fluffy hair on his forehead for him. "No need." Wang Xian shook his head. The nameless soul scripture that he cultivated was extremely profound and mysterious. Its grade was far higher than ordinary cultivation techniques. He was full of energy and could even starve for 3 days and 3 nights without a problem. Now that Wang Xuani's enemies knew about his talent, he did not know what kind of experts they would send to deal with him. He had to race against time to become stronger. The two of them found a mountain bay to land. Following Wang Xian's request, they had to find a place near a water source where water-type soul beasts gathered. In the cool night wind, the fragrance of flowers blew over from time to time. Occasionally, there were the roars of soul beasts. Under the bend of the mountain, a stream gurgled. It was especially cool in the night wind. Wang Xian's figure moved and jumped onto the reef. His eyes were filled with excitement. He could sense a few types of soul beasts by the stream. One type was the big pincer crab. It was a type of large crab with extremely powerful pincers. Each of them was the size of a stone bowl and had a rock-green shell. They blew bubbles in the water, and 1 or 2 of them could be seen from time to time. This was a type of low-grade water-type soul beast. Killing this type of soul beast would strengthen the strength of one's hands. Beside the stream, there was also a type of dark green turtle. Taking advantage of the night, they all ran to the shore. This type of big turtle was the rocklift turtle. The soul ring obtained from killing this rocklift turtle could strengthen a portion of the soul beast's defense. The lucky ones could obtain an ability called the spirit turtle's mind realm. However, these were all low-grade soul beasts and did not have much value. Usually, unless they were extremely old, their only value was as a delicacy on the table. In the distance, Feng Yi looked at the white-clothed young master on the rock with a doting gaze. Ever since the white-clothed young master was born, she had always been worried about the phoenix poison fire in her body. She almost did not care about Wang Xian. This made her feel guilty from the bottom of her heart. If possible, she wanted to make it up to the white-clothed young master. Roar! An incomparably fierce tiger roar came from afar. The two people's expressions changed. In the depths of the darkness, a fishy wind swept over. Suddenly, a large, black-mottled, white-striped bug rushed out from the forest in the distance. In the blink of an eye, it arrived on a rock on the other side of the stream and stared at the two people like a tiger eyeing its prey. Black-wind tiger? Wang Xian focused his eyes and was happy instead of shocked. It was common knowledge that most tiger-type soul beasts had a special effect on male soul warriors. The younger one obtained a tiger-type soul ring, the greater the benefits after strengthening it. A tiger's back and a bear's waist was usually used to describe a man's imposing manner. A tiger-type soul ring was usually able to strengthen a man's temperament and strength. Of course, there was an unconfirmed rumor that tiger-type soul rings could strengthen a man's ability in a certain aspect. This point had always been talked about enthusiastically by many male soul warriors. Many people favored tiger-type soul rings because of this. Thick, long, and big cough cough. Chapter 1235. Thick, long, and large enticement. Wang Xian looked at the striped tiger on the other side of the stream. The black-wind tiger was one of the more common wind-type, tiger-type spirit beasts in the giant spirit mountain range. Apart from the above benefits, if one was lucky, one could also obtain the wind element enhancement. It would make one more agile, nimble, and more sensitive to the flow of the wind. This black-wind tiger is tall and should be close to 300 years old. Its strength is not inferior to an ordinary yellow rank expert. Do you need me to make a move? Feng Yi smiled as she looked at Wang Xian, not far away. No need, it's just a black-wind tiger. Wang Xian smiled faintly as his gaze landed on the black-wind tiger's body. It was as if he was analyzing the black-wind tiger's bones, skin, and flesh. Roar! With a loud roar, The black-wind tiger seemed to have been provoked and retreated a few steps. In the next moment, it rushed towards the river bank and stared fiercely at the little person on the rock on the other side of the river. The moment the black-wind tiger pounced, Wang Xian's figure moved. In Feng Yi's eyes, Wang Xian shot out from his original position like a wisp of smoke. Feng Yi was already prepared to make a move at any time. Although she wanted to train Wang Xian, when it came down to it, she couldn't bear to let Wang Xian take the risk. But soon, her expression relaxed. Rumble. The two figures of a man and a tiger crossed each other in a flash. However, in an instant, life and death were determined. Bang! A heavy object fell into the stream, and water splashed everywhere. The other figure was like a spinning leaf in midair and actually turned back in midair. The wind swept past, and in the next moment, it landed on the rock. What a neat move. Feng Yi's beautiful eyes fell on the white-clothed young master. Her beautiful eyes were full of splendor. Even with her experience, she couldn't find any fault with Wang Xian's actions. Leaping up, seizing a flaw in the black-wind tiger's jump, smashing its heart, and suddenly returning. It could be said to be done in one go. At this age, this kind of fighting spirit, even in the history of the Feng family, I'm afraid it's rare. The white-clothed, beautiful young woman's heart was filled with joy. If Wang Xian's almost monstrous mind was added, his future achievements would be limitless. The white-clothed woman was as elegant as a fairy, but her heart was surging. In the stream, following the death of the black-wind tiger, a layer of pale yellow light overflowed from the black-wind tiger's corpse and gradually turned into a pale black halo. It was the soul ring of the black-wind tiger after it died. Once a perfect human-class powerhouse absorbed this soul ring, they would be able to advance to the yellow class. Within half an hour, if no one absorbed it, the soul ring would turn back into soul power, dissipate, and return to the earth. Qin Feng didn't pay any attention to the black-wind tiger's soul ring. His goal was very clear, a water-type soul ring. Killing the black-wind tiger was only because the black-wind tiger didn't know what was good for it, not because he lacked confidence. Wang Xian followed the stream towards the depths of the giant spiritual mountain range. From the Wang family's library pavilion's records regarding the giant spirit mountain range, there was a 1,000-kilometer underground valley deep within the mountain range. That valley was the hub of the giant spirit mountain range's water system, and many types of water-type soul beasts lived there. In the middle, the sky gradually brightened. The two of them chose a place to rest for a while. Then he set off again. There were many soul beasts in the giant spirit mountain range. The variety was indeed flourishing. Walking along the upstream of the stream, more and more water-type soul beasts appeared in front of the two of them. Water cannon turtles that could spit out water pillars to attack, green tail prawns with green tails, poison thorn algae with poisonous thorns, rainbow flying fish with colorful scales that could jump out of the water for a short period of time, ice spirit blue shellfish that could freeze a part of the water surface's blue shells. All kinds of water-type soul beasts. Even Wang Xian felt that it was an eye-opener. Along the way, they also encountered some ignorant soul beasts, but most of them were taken care of by Wang Xian. Their speed was very fast, and in the morning, the two of them were close to the underground valley in the records. On the hillside, Wang Xian looked over. It was a valley in the middle of the mountains. White mist filled the air, making it impossible to see clearly. Only the fluctuations of the water nearby could allow one to see through a corner of the lake. The dense water-type soul power emitted was very captivating. It was a myriad of scenes. I didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful place in the giant spirit mountain range. Feng Yi's watery eyes looked up and down at the body of water. Early in the morning, the sun shone down from the sky. There was a layer of white mist above the clouds, as if it was one with the surrounding mountains, covering the sky and the sun. Open! A circle of dense flames shot out from Feng Yi's body, and the blazing high temperature flew into the center of the white mist. Gradually, the dense white mist was dispersed. Wang Xian's gaze focused, and a small island in the center of the lake appeared in front of him. Rather than calling the small island an island, It was better to call it a rock in the center of the lake. On the rock, there was a strange fruit tree. It was icy blue like water, and a faint water-type soul power was emitted. Its branches were exquisite and curved like a coiling dragon. There were only a few light blue leaves, and one of the branches had an icy blue fruit that emitted an alluring soul power light. A strange fragrance spread out along with a white mist. Water's soul fruit. By the side, Feng Yi had already cried out in surprise. There's actually a spirit tree growing here, and it even bears a fruit. Wang Xian's expression did not change. The water soul fruit was a type of water-type mutant fruit. This kind of fruit tree was born from nature and absorbed the free water-type soul power of heaven and earth to give birth to a spirit fruit. This spirit fruit was abnormally rare. Regardless of whether it was a human or beast that swallowed it, it could increase their soul power and temper their martial soul. It was a rare treasure. Xianer, seems like your luck is not bad. Feng Yi's watery eyes shone with a smile. Such a natural treasure was truly a top-notch spirit item for forging one's foundation. In her opinion, it was suitable for Wang Xian to refine. Her body moved slightly, but she suddenly raised her brows. Wang Xian grabbed her hand and shook his head. Xianer, what are you doing? The beautiful young woman in white looked at the white-clothed young master with a pair of beautiful eyes that could speak. Wang Xian's expression was indifferent as he smiled mysteriously. The beautiful young woman in white was puzzled, but she understood in the next moment. She smelled a rich fragrance of a spirit fruit. Roar! In the blink of an eye, she could hear the excited roars of several soul beasts. A few beast roars came from all directions, and several tyrannical auras of soul beasts approached this small lake rapidly. The beautiful young woman in white looked at Wang Xian, who was beside her with a smile on his face, and thought to herself, this little fellow is really smart. He actually thought of using this water soul fruit to catch those soul beasts. However, with the abundant soul power of the water soul fruit, he might really be able to catch a few powerful fellows. Chapter 1236. Giant Spirit City was dominated by the three major families. Other than the Wang family, there were also the Yi and Dongfang families. In fact, 6 years ago, the Wang family had already conquered the entire city. If not for Wang Xuani's sudden death in battle, there would only be one family left in Giant Spirit City. Yi family, in a loft. Yuan's face was gloomy. Patriarch, we've just received news that Feng Yi and Wang Xuani have disappeared. Beside him was another powerful figure in the Yi family, Yi Lingfeng, the strongest in the family. He glanced at Yuan and spoke. That lord wants us to monitor Feng Yi's every move. Feng Yi has been living in seclusion all these years. Her sudden disappearance probably has something to do with that brat. I heard that the little brat awakened a transcendent grade martial spirit during this martial spirit awakening ceremony. Feng Yi suddenly disappeared with the little brat. I'm afraid it's to protect the little brat. Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking in a deep voice. Inform that lord immediately. Yi Lingfeng nodded. Big brother, should we send experts? Experts? Do you think we're Feng Yi's match? Yuan glanced at Yi Lingfeng. But you're right. Some things need to be done. We can send some of our spies, but not the elites. Try your best to search the low-grade and mid-grade hunting grounds. Those are the key areas to investigate. Yi Lingfeng nodded. Swoosh, swoosh. A strange bird that was completely snow-white flew without a trace, tearing through the heavens. It flapped its wings extremely quickly like lightning. Layers of clouds were torn apart, gradually revealing a continuous and majestic mountain range. Strangely, layers of luxurious jade palaces appeared above the mountain range surrounded by clouds. It was like a heavenly realm in the clouds. Every brick and tile of these palaces was extremely beautiful, as if it was the residence of a true god. There was a kind of majesty in the ethereal air. Powerful auras occasionally flowed out from some of the palaces. It was soul-stirring. Clearly, this was the mountain gate of a large sect. In the sea of clouds, smart young men and women wearing the robes of the sect could be seen from time to time. They were being led by groups of experts to cultivate by the mountain streams or streams. Young Master's cloud falcon is back. Beside the stream, a disciple carrying a sword on his back couldn't help but raise his head when he heard the sound of wings flapping. In the next moment, he looked surprised. Everyone knew that there were many kinds of soul beasts in the sect that could send messages, but the cloud falcon was a symbol of the young master's lineage. Furthermore, the cloud falcons in the sky were no ordinary cloud falcons. They probably had soul power of 1,000 years. It could be said that he could travel hundreds of thousands of miles in a day. Using a cloud falcon of this level to send a message was definitely not a simple matter. The 1,000-year cloud falcon flew across the sea of clouds and circled around a few more times before arriving at a tall and beautiful mountain peak in the depths of the sect. The spring chill was chilly. The mountain stream was hazy with white clouds, and the waterfall was sloping like a white dragon. However, on one side of the cliff, there was a brass wooden building suspended between the cliffs. Strong winds blew, but it stood firm. The everlasting pine tree beside the wooden building. On top of the wooden building, a delicate and pretty girl in white was sitting cross-legged. Her expression suddenly changed. She looked to be about 17 or 18 years old and had a bit of baby fat. Her eyes moved, and she stretched out a hand. White cloud light floated, like a lonely shadow, and a stream of light flew into her hand. It was a strange white hawk with a small body and a sharp beak. Sizing up this cloud falcon, the white-clothed girl's expression gradually became serious. She knew that using a 1,000-year cloud falcon to send a message was definitely not ordinary. This message had to be directly reported to that young master. She skillfully removed the sealed bamboo tube from the cloud falcon's feet. Creak! The door of the wooden building opened, and the white-clothed girl hurriedly left the building, entering the depths of the mountain mist. After passing through several palaces, she arrived in front of a simple and unadorned palace. "Halt!" A faint voice sounded, and a beautiful girl in her 20s walked out from the side. She wore a long white dress, and her long hair draped over her shoulders. Her jade-like face was like autumn water, but there was a cold arrogance between her brows. The aura on her body was much stronger than that of the white-clothed girl. The white-clothed girl knew the rules and immediately cupped the bamboo tube in her hands and retreated to the side. "There is an urgent message. You can leave." The white-clothed girl took the bamboo tube, turned around, and disappeared into the palace. She passed through several palace doors and was about to knock on the innermost palace door. "Yin Shui, come in." A voice filled with endless coldness came from the door, as if it was in front of her. "Yes, young master." The palace door automatically opened from the inside. The palace door was unusually spacious. As the palace door opened, 2 rows of silver lotus flowers were lit up layer by layer, extending all the way to the depths of the palace, where a figure was sitting cross-legged in front of. It was a tall and handsome young man in white. He sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, and his eyebrows reached his temples. He opened his eyes, and it was as if 2 bolts of lightning shot out from the palace door. Seeing the white-clothed young man open his eyes, Yin Shui's shoulders trembled slightly. Obviously, she was extremely afraid. She bent her knees and respectfully offered the bamboo tube in her hands. The white-clothed young man waved his hand, and the bamboo tube silently appeared in his hand. He opened the bamboo tube, and a roll of animal skin appeared in his eyes. With just a glance, his eyes suddenly became fierce. "Pucci!" Silently, the animal skin in his 5 fingers turned into ashes. "Bitch!" The resentful voice seemed to come from the depths of hell, and the white-clothed young man's expression instantly distorted. The broken wound on his lower body was faintly painful. That nightmarish humiliation seemed to be right in front of him, and his eyes were red because of malevolence. "Fei Xing, Meng Zhen, do it. Don't hurt Feng Yi, but that little bastard must die." The cold voice seemed to blow out from the endless depths of hell. Yun Shui's hands and feet were cold, and she sucked in a breath of cold air in her heart. Fei Xing and Meng Zhan were the only Earth-grade experts under this young master, and they were not ordinary Earth-grade experts. They could be said to be this young master's left and right-hand men. Slightly nodding, Yun Shui respectfully retreated. After Yun Shui retreated, the white-clothed young man closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths. After a moment, he calmed down, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Feng Yi, you bitch, this young master won't let you die like this. Wait until this young master breaks through to heaven grade, and my broken limbs grow back. This young master will play you bit by bit to death. Daring to scheme against this young master will make you beg for death. His words were filled with resentment, but when he thought of Feng Yi's beautiful figure, the white-clothed young man's eyes flashed with lust. It won't be long, at most a few months, this young master will definitely break through to heaven grade. At that time, I will play with you, bitch, the #1 beauty of the West Chu Empire. When he thought of Feng Yi's perfect and fiery figure, his cold face twisted like a perverted demon, unable to wait. Chapter 1237. In the giant Spirit Mountain range, there were already thick layers of corpses of soul beasts lying around the lake. Faint yellow soul rings were slowly disappearing from the corpses of the soul beasts. Among them, there was no lack of mid-grade soul beasts that were close to 1,000 years old. In the end, there were only 2 giant soul beasts left in this area. One of them was the overlord of the lake. It was a ferocious, ice-blue poisonous snake. It had a single horn on its head. That was the dragon horn of a flood dragon. Snakes that were over 1,000 years old had already begun to transform into flood dragons. The one on top of its head was a golden eagle. Its wings were 3 meters long, and its teeth were extremely sharp. This eagle-type soul beast wasn't kind either. It was at least 1,000 years old. A wind-type skylark golden eagle and a water-type blue spirit flood dragon snake. On the hillside, the beautiful woman in white glanced at Wang Xian with her watery eyes. What are you going to do next? Wang Xian's gaze landed on the blue, cunning flood dragon snake that was hiding in the water from time to time, avoiding the sharp claws of the skylark golden eagle. Blue spirit snake, one of the low-grade water-type soul beasts. Its venom was extremely poisonous. Blue spirit flood dragon snake, one of the mid-grade soul beasts that evolved after the blue spirit snake's 1,000-year calamity. It further mutated into ice-type abilities and had the ability to spit out frost poison. It could also control water to a certain extent. One of the rare water-type soul beasts. Killing this soul beast had a high chance of obtaining the ability to control water, a certain chance of obtaining the enhancement of frost poison, and a certain chance of obtaining the enhancement of toughness. That's it. Wang Xian's eyes were shining. Xian, this blue spirit flood dragon snake is at least 1,300 years old. Do you want to consider? Feng Yi saw Wang Xian's expression and was a little worried. A normal perfect human rank expert could only refine around 100-year soul ring at most. Refining around 1,300 soul rings from a powerful soul beast was too exaggerated. From what she knew, even some of the peerless geniuses of the ancient clans could only refine around 800-year soul rings. That was the limit. If he forcefully refined it, his martial soul wouldn't be able to withstand it, and his body would collapse. Don't worry, my physique has been tempered many times, and my martial soul has also been tempered to a certain extent, although it's a little difficult to refine more than 1,300 soul rings. The success rate is at least 80%. Wang Xian was very confident. A trace of redness flashed across the beautiful white-clothed woman's pure and holy face. What multiple strengthening! It was just drinking milk that contained the fire poison in her body multiple times. She was ashamed and angry, but Feng Yi pondered for a moment and felt that it wasn't impossible. The fire poison within her body could easily incinerate some weapons, but when it fell into Wang Xian's mouth, not only was it not damaged, but it was reduced to a body-tempering spiritual object. This was enough to show how strong Wang Xian's physique was. She had also checked that Wang Xian's physique was far superior to those of the same level. It was even comparable to the physique of some Xian grade experts. If that's the case, get ready to kill the blue spirit Jiao snake. All right. Seeing Feng Yi relent, Wang Xian's expression turned solemn. Flames flashed. It was as if a gigantic phoenix had appeared in the void as a terrifying temperature swept out. A terrifying aura that surpassed the Earth stage erupted. The 2,000-year-old beast fighting in the middle of the lake instantly sensed it. Screech! There was a panicked eagle cry. Almost instantly, the virtuous firmament golden eagle couldn't care less about the blue spirit Jiao snake. It turned into a golden light and flew into the sky, running away without looking back. The blue spirit Jiao snake wasn't slow either. Feeling the aura from the hillside, it was like a frightened rabbit. Its ferocious and cold snake eyes flashed with fear. It curled its tail and dived into the water. Try to run. Flames danced on her white clothes. Feng Yi didn't care about the escaping virtuous firmament golden eagle. Her gaze was fixed on the blue spirit Jiao snake in the lake. Flying phoenix claws. The scarlet flames turned into a fiery red phoenix claw and went straight into the lake. In the next moment, the water exploded and grabbed a strange ice-blue snake with black and white rings on its belly. Bang! A huge force penetrated and bombarded the ground. The originally ferocious blue spirit Jiao snake only had a tiny bit of life left. Feng Yi controlled her strength very well. The blue spirit Jiao snake was heavily injured and had lost its ability to resist, but didn't die. Wang Xian went forward. For this kind of soul beast, he had the highest chance of condensing a soul ring if he killed it himself. His body was like a wisp of green smoke. He suddenly appeared 7 inches away from the blue spirit Jiao snake and stomped his foot down. Boom! The intense vibration went through the snake's flesh and into the gallbladder. With a boom, the gallbladder that had been burned by the phoenix primordial fire was shattered. The blue spirit Jiao snake had completely lost its life. A faint yellow light appeared above the blue spirit Jiao snake's body. It was different from the black wind tiger's soul ring. Not only was the blue spirit Jiao snake's soul ring brighter, but it also had a heavy pressure. It even had a faint golden color. Wang Xian's expression was calm. He walked over and sat down cross-legged. He stretched out one hand and activated the soul power in his body. Streaks of soul power flowed through his arm and gathered on it. Accompanied by a soft water-like pale blue soul power halo, the water spirit vine sprouted from his palm like a seedling. The 3 faint blue tender leaves had a rich life aura that fluctuated with his soul power. They seemed to have sensed the aura of the soul ring. The few faint blue tender leaves swayed. A layer of faint blue light appeared and guided the soul ring above the blue spirit Jiao snake towards the water spirit vine. It was the most crucial moment to condense the soul ring. Feng Yi looked at this scene with a serious expression. At the same time, she guarded the surroundings to prevent any soul beast from interfering. As the Jiao snake soul ring approached, a huge pressure appeared. Wang Xian's heart turned cold. Under this huge pressure, his clothes were swaying violently. The tyrannical pressure pressed down on every inch of his body. Qin Feng's expression didn't change. Soon, the soul ring reached the top of the water spirit vine that was emitting a faint blue halo. It started to shrink and fall. Finally, it landed beside the water spirit vine. It was like a yellow bracelet that was shining brightly. Wang Xian's hand trembled slightly. The water spirit vine on his palm almost dissipated instantly. It was too hot. He felt as if his hand had reached into magma. The scalding magma was boiling his skin, flesh, and bones inch by inch. Wang Xian knew that he couldn't move now. If he couldn't hold on, all his previous efforts would be wasted. He gritted his teeth. The soul power in his body surged into the martial soul in his palm and stabilized this chaos inch by inch. At this time, there was only one thing he had to do, and that was to use his soul power to completely subdue this soul ring. This was the most difficult hurdle in the realm of a perfect stage powerhouse. Hold on. Feng Yi's pair of beautiful eyes stared at the buzzing and trembling soul ring around the water spirit vine. This was the most crucial moment. Whether he could subdue this 1,000-year soul ring depended on this moment. If the soul power was too little and the quality was too low, it would be easy to waste all his previous efforts. It was common knowledge that the older the soul ring, the higher the requirement for one's soul power. However, soon, her expression gradually relaxed. An icy blue soul power brilliance gushed out from Wang Xian's body and entered the soul ring. The scorching soul ring cooled down bit by bit and stabilized. No problem. In just a few moments, Wang Xian transferred so much soul power, but his expression didn't change. With such a vigorous soul power, no wonder Xian was so confident to subdue this 1,000-year Jiao Snake's soul ring. As Feng Yi's thoughts changed, the 1,000-year Jiao Snake soul ring had completely stabilized. After the faint earthy yellow soul power ring stabilized, a layer of earthy yellow light poured down from the soul ring and entered the martial soul. A small part of it flowed down his arm and went straight into Wang Xian's body. At this moment, Wang Xian's entire body seemed to emit a rich, earthy yellow luster. This was the soul ring strengthening. Feng Yi was completely relieved. I wonder which ability of the 1,000-year Jiao Snake's soul ring Xian will be able to obtain this time. The beautiful, white-clothed young woman's clear eyes flashed with anticipation. Chapter 1238. The power of the soul ring was like boiling magma as it entered the water spirit vine. The magma-like power did not melt or destroy the vine that was as weak as a blade of grass. On the contrary, after absorbing the power of the soul ring, it was as if it had obtained nourishment. As it grew, its originally thin and weak roots became thick and strong, and there were even traces of light blue scales on them. They were like fine snake scales. They emitted a sapphire blue brilliance. The oval-shaped leaves gradually changed into sawtooth-like icy blue leaves. The veins of the leaves were like venomous snakes. Traces of cold venom flickered with a trace of black veins. The light blue brilliance gradually deepened, and the transformed vines grew larger and larger. It was like a small sapling that had grown into a Boston ivy. The leaves swayed like countless agile little snakes. Boom! Following that, the remaining power of the soul ring flowed like a torrent through the martial soul and into his four limbs. When the torrent of magma-like heat flowed through the soul ring into his martial soul and into his four limbs, Qin Feng felt that he had naturally broken through to the yellow rank. The colorless soul power in his body carried traces of a faint yellow light. That was the sign of reaching the yellow rank, although it was only the first layer of the yellow rank. However, the power of the soul ring was far from reaching its limit. The rolling power surged as the nameless soul scripture accelerated its operation and opened up layers of meridians in his body. Yellow rank second layer. Yellow rank third layer. The power of the 1,000-year soul ring directly pushed the soul power in his body to the third layer of the yellow rank. It really is a 1,000-year soul ring. It actually broke through to the third layer of the yellow rank in one go. Feng Yi's phoenix eyes lit up. This kind of cultivation speed was truly rare. However, in the next moment, her beautiful eyes widened. Rumble. A small soul power vortex gradually formed above the martial soul in Wang Xian's palm. The invisible vortex gradually expanded, and it began to pull in the soul power in the surrounding space to pour into the martial soul, which then entered Wang Xian's body. Feng Yi's beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. According to what she knew, opening the aperture of heaven and earth and allowing the soul ring to absorb the abundant soul power in heaven and earth was an ability that could only be obtained after reaching the black rank. Furthermore, it could only devour a small portion of the abundant soul power in the void. But before his eyes, the drifting soul power within a radius of several hundred meters seemed to be forcibly pulled and devoured by the mutated water spirit vine. The remaining part of the soul power went into Wang Xian's body. Yellow rank level 4. Yellow rank level 5. Yellow rank level 6. Under Feng Yi's incredulous gaze, Wang Xian's soul power surged and directly charged into the peak of the yellow rank 9th layer Great Circle. If it wasn't for the fact that the second soul ring had yet to be obtained, Feng Yi didn't doubt that Wang Xian would directly break through the profound rank realm. He could sense that although Wang Xian's soul power was vast and majestic, it was not weak at all. Wang Xian opened his eyes and pondered in his heart as the aura of the complete yellow rank was condensed to the extreme. It's a pity that the second and third soul rings haven't been found yet. Otherwise, I could directly enter the peak of the profound rank and the peak of the earth rank. Wang Xian was a peerless almighty of the King Realm. Although the laws of the Star River continent were somewhat different, he could use the Master God space to analyze and modify them, layer by layer. This kind of cultivation speed was absolutely not something a so-called genius could compare to. The next step is to find the second soul ring. The limit for the second soul ring is 2,000 years for most people, but with my physical fitness and the strength of my soul, I can consider a soul ring below 5,000 years. Thinking in his heart, Wang Xian opened his eyes and glanced around. His brows furrowed. This terrifying action of his seemed to have frightened Feng Yi. "Xian, are you?" Feng Yi's pair of beautiful phoenix eyes were filled with doubt as she looked at Wang Xian with a complicated expression. "Don't worry, I have other opportunities." Wang Xian's expression was indifferent as he shook his head. He had already prepared a response to Feng Yi's reaction. As for making up stories, he had countless materials in his mind about the rise of geniuses. It really couldn't be any more real. "You're saying that you obtained a wonderful treasure that allows you to enter the dream, to cultivate one day every month, and that one day in the dream is comparable to 10 years of other people." Feng Yi was a little stunned and a little enlightened. Although she didn't know whether this was true or not, it seemed that this was the only explanation that could fit Wang Xian's monstrous explanation. A 6-year-old child's talent might be monstrous, but his temperament shouldn't be so terrifying. Wang Xian nodded and moved his sleeve aside. A strange symbol appeared on his arm. That was a symbol that he could sense more of the Master God Space's power after his cultivation breakthrough. He borrowed a trace of the Master God Space's power to brand it. Feng Yi was still in disbelief. She couldn't help but step forward and use a trace of soul remembrance to pierce it. However, in the next moment, she felt an indescribable majestic power. In a trance, she seemed to see an extremely imposing figure. It was a terrifying almighty that swam across the heavens. It seemed that a trace of his aura could suppress space and time. So terrifying. Feng Yi's soul awareness was instantly ejected, but that terrifying almighty's imposing figure seemed to have entered the depths of her soul. After a long time, she finally reacted from the terrifying aura fluctuation. She turned around and looked at Wang Xian. Her beautiful eyes couldn't hide the joy in them. Having obtained the inheritance of such a terrifying existence, Wang Xian's future was limitless. "Xian, you didn't do this properly. How could you easily reveal such an inheritance? If it were to spread, it would be a great disaster. Remember, you can't speak of it in the future. You can't speak of it to anyone. You're not an outsider." Wang Xian shook his head slightly. Feng Yi was stunned. Then, she looked at Wang Xian with her watery eyes. She was both touched and gratified. Moved, the white-clothed young woman couldn't help but tightly embrace the white-clothed young master. Wang Xian only felt an extremely pleasant body fragrance that was like orchids and musk entered his nose. There was also that soft and bouncy, extremely wonderful feeling. He couldn't help but move in that direction. This is a natural-born, peerless beauty. No wonder Wang Xuani's life was so short. How could an ordinary person have the fortune to possess such a peerless beauty? Wang Xian laughed in his heart. He compared the other women in his heart. Even the Queen of Silver Moon, who was a peerless beauty, was slightly inferior to this young woman in white. The white-clothed young woman didn't feel the strangeness of the white-clothed young master in her arms. Her sacred and pure jade face was filled with gratitude. The warm atmosphere didn't disperse for a long time on the hillside. After a moment, the beautiful white-clothed young woman let go of the white-clothed young master in her arms and asked, "Xian, what are you going to do next? Are you going back to Giant Spirit City directly, or continue hunting for the second soul ring in the Giant Spirit Mountain Range?" When she let go of the white-clothed young master, the beautiful white-clothed woman noticed that after the soul ring strengthening, Wang Xian had grown a lot taller. He actually looked like he was 11 or 12 years old. He looked like a teenager. Chapter 1239. That's right. Wang Xian nodded and said calmly, "I've read in the notes of many Wang family disciples that there is a poison dragon pool in the depths of the giant spiritual mountain range. There is a 4,000-year-old three-headed poisonous serpent in the poison dragon pool." Three-headed poisonous serpent? This is a top-tier existence close to a high-level soul beast. Are you sure you want to choose it? Feng Yi was surprised. Wang Xian nodded. He had chosen to strengthen his water-type and poison-type soul beasts. This was the most suitable path for the mutated water spirit vine. Right now, the evolved water spirit vine should be the frost serpent poisonous serpent. Not only did it have the outstanding cold poison of the blue spirit serpent, but it also had the tenacity of a serpent. In terms of fire-type soul beasts, it also had outstanding defensive abilities. The three-headed poisonous serpent's poison-type abilities and water-type abilities were rare among water-type soul beasts of the same level. It was the most suitable choice for the frost serpent poisonous serpent's second soul ring. Not only could it continue to strengthen the frost serpent poisonous serpent's water-type and poison-type abilities, it could also be expanded. The two of them casually plucked the water soul fruits from the center of the lake and left the valley. However, the commotion around them had already attracted the attention of many people, including a search team from the Yi family. It was easy to determine that a powerful soul beast that was far stronger than the blue spirit serpent and many other soul beasts had passed by this place. At the same time, the search team from the Yi family arrived at the valley. There were also two special characters who entered Giant Holy City. After searching the Wang family, they rushed to the Yi family and entered the Yi family under the grand welcome of the Yi family. After half a day, they left and rushed towards the giant spiritual mountain range. This is the Black Pool? On top of a mountain peak that was tightly locked by heavy clouds. Feng Yi blinked her beautiful eyes as she looked at the pool that was clear and cold like jade waves before her eyes, and then she looked at Wang Xian. Don't be surprised. It doesn't have to be a black pool. It has to be called the Black Pool. Wang Xian laughed. This pool was on the dark side of the mountain range. The terrain was narrow and there were dense clouds. Being energy gathered in all directions. It was extraordinary. Normally, such a place was a paradise for poisonous creatures. Looking at the sun in the sky. At this moment, the sun was shining brightly. The blazing yang qi penetrated through the heavy clouds, and the shadows of the many mountain peaks shone from the middle of the sky onto the surface of the pool. One could see the luxuriant branches and leaves of the ancient dark green trees all around. Under the clouds, many ancient trees drooped their branches and fell on the water surface. The scenery was extremely beautiful. Wang Xian said to Feng Yi, "It's daytime right now. The water-type and poison-type soul beasts in this pool will only come out to hunt for food when the moon is high in the sky to absorb the power of the moon. All right, let's rest here for a while. When night falls, we'll come back to investigate." Feng Yi was also rather tired. However, he was mentally exhausted, especially after experiencing the impact of the legacy of that terrifying mighty figure. The two of them found a small stream on one side of the Black Pool. The valley here was deep and serene, covered by dense clouds. It was quite secluded. The stream gurgled. Feng Yi was a person who loved beauty to begin with. She couldn't endure it and actually ran into the stream to bathe. Wang Xian sat cross-legged on the rock. Feng Yi wasn't afraid. In her eyes, Wang Xian's impression was still that of a 6-year-old child from beginning to end. She took off her white dress piece by piece, leaving only her undergarments and underwear. Her voluptuous figure was practically revealed in front of Wang Xian. The stream gurgled, clear and transparent. The beautiful young woman's cloud-like hair cascaded down behind Feng Yi's slender neck like a waterfall. The bright and beautiful sky fortunately shone on the beauty's black hair, turning into waves of mysterious luster that flowed leisurely. Black, so black that it was enchanting and mysterious. The elegant long hair couldn't cover the beautiful young woman's white and elegant neck. Her gem-like skin flickered with white light, stubbornly piercing through the obstruction of her black hair. Through the gaps between the threads, it was like a sharp arrow that pierced through the youth's heart. It was so white that it shook one's soul. The beautiful woman's jade face was facing the youth's gaze from the side. Droplets of water flowed along her beautiful, white, jade-like skin and slowly flowed into the bright red undergarment. At this moment, one couldn't help but turn into that chilly water that flowed down along with her skin, as if she sensed that slightly fiery gaze. Feng Yi's jade face flushed red like the peach blossoms in March. Her watery eyes turned slightly with a hint of rebuke. "Stinking brat, you're asking for a beating." A faint voice sounded as if it was right in front of Wang Xian. Ugh. Wang Xian subconsciously turned around and didn't dare to look again. However, he glanced sideways at the water surface from the corner of his eyes. Following that, Wang Xian realized that a faint mist of water had curled up around the beautiful young woman. The huge stream was instantly filled with mist and ripples. He could no longer see the unparalleled beauty in the world clearly. She was like a fantasy with thousands of temptations. What a pity, what a pity. Wang Xian retracted his gaze and looked down regretfully. At this moment, he wasn't as weak as before when he was strengthened by the blue spirit Jiao Snake soul ring. His physique had strengthened by a lot. Under the stimulation of strength, he already had the figure of an 11 or 12-year-old. Although he was still a little lacking, he could still use some of his abilities. Don't worry, don't worry. Sooner or later, I will eat this exceptional beauty. Wang Xian comforted himself in his heart. As the sun set in the west, the curtain of night fell. The sky gradually darkened, and the blazing yang energy of the sun star dispersed. Without the suppression of the yang energy, the dense yin energy in the vicinity of the black pool began to converge from the yin side of the mountain peaks. The temperature began to drop rapidly. Beep, beep, beep. Wang Xian found some dry firewood and started a fire. Actually, at Wang Xian's realm, he was already immune to cold and heat. Some yin energy couldn't hinder him. However, he liked the feeling of sitting alone by relying on the fire, especially when there was a peerless beauty like Feng Yi beside him. The beautiful young woman's hair was draped over her shoulders. She was barefaced. The most difficult thing to shift one's gaze away from her was that she had just appeared from the water. She was only wearing a loose, white muslin dress. Her twin peaks were towering, and her straight, long legs were exposed. Her hair was dripping with sparkling and translucent water droplets. Her astonishing curves were faintly discernible. It almost made one want to transform into a wolf and rush up to her. They wanted to ruthlessly press her down on the blue stone and turn into a beast to ravage her. Every frown and smile could make one's heart beat faster and drive one crazy. It was a strange impulse that was filled with flames. It was an astonishing instinctive temptation and desire to conquer. Wang Xian knew that this wasn't some Hotian bewitching technique. As the ancestor of the inner demons, no Hotian bewitching technique could tempt him, the ancestor of the inner demons. This was an innate, natural bewitchment. Perhaps this was the charm of this exceptional beauty. Chapter 1240. Croak, croak. As the moon rose into the sky, Strange croaks of frogs could be heard in the cold and clear stream under the cold moonlight. Fog covered the top of their heads, and it was extremely dark. The fire on the ground was gradually extinguished. Feng Yi wore her white dress again. Wang Xian's figure flashed and appeared beside the stream. At this moment, the stream was like a piece of white paper under the moonlight and gradually became as black as ink. What a dense yin energy! Feng Yi's beautiful face was solemn. Wang Xian nodded slightly. This was probably the origin of the Blackwater Pool's name. The yin energy here was too dense and gathered in the stream, causing it to turn black. Wang Xian tried to touch it with one hand. A piercing chill came from his skin and drilled into his body. It was as if 10,000-year ice needles had pierced into his flesh. What a dense yin energy! The earthen yellow soul ring on his hand vibrated as he activated his soul power. A vine quickly grew from his hand like a venomous snake and suddenly entered the stream. There were too many things that could restrain plant-type soul beasts. This was also the reason why plant-type soul beasts would be inferior to other soul beasts of the same quality. The extremely cold environment could suppress the activity of many plant-type soul beasts. However, for the frost serpent poisonous vine, the possibility of extreme cold and extreme heat was not high. After being strengthened by the blue spirit serpent's poisonous frost breath, the frost serpent poisonous vine had evolved into fine scales like a serpent. It was extremely resistant to extreme cold and extreme heat. When the frost serpent poisonous vine entered the stream, Wang Xian only felt a slight chill. Whoosh whoosh! Suddenly, there was a dazzling sound from the stream, and a fine vine that was like a venomous snake burst out of the water. Croak, croak! It was accompanied by a thunderous cry. The vine swayed like a venomous snake and was tightly entangled. A black-skinned, poisonous frog the size of a stone mill appeared at the tip of the vine and was tightly entangled. Feng Yi looked over with a slightly surprised expression. The black arrow ghost frog was a water-type and poison-type soul beast. Its hind legs were strong and shot out like black arrows. It was extremely poisonous, and the poison in the pustules on its back could easily kill a 1,000-year soul beast. It usually lived in extremely dark water and was very difficult to catch. The black arrow ghost frog in front of them was about 300 years old. Wang Xin glanced at it and shook his head. This kind of 300-year soul ring was too weak to withstand the surging soul power in his body. In its panic, the black arrow ghost frog desperately secreted a slimy poison in an attempt to escape from the binding of the frost dragon poisonous spirit vine. However, the ice dragon poison spirit vine was like a poisonous snake. Once it had entangled its prey, how could it let go so easily? The potent poison was completely useless against the poison spirit vine. Wang Xian's mind moved. The frost WIRM poisonous spirit vines spread out like a whip and released the soul beast. The frightened black arrow ghost frog watched as the tightly bound vines loosened. It shot into the water like a sharp arrow and disappeared. The black arrow ghost frog was terrified. Let's go. Wang Xian stood up and looked in the direction of the black pool. That was the hunting ground for tonight. When the two of them arrived at the black pool, Wang Xian felt his scalp go numb the moment he saw the surroundings of the pool. So many poison-type soul beasts are gathered here. Feng Yi's expression was also filled with shock. In the black pool, countless poisonous creatures were floating and sinking in the water. They were densely packed together like a deep and serene hell. Many of them were still fighting and devouring each other. The branches of some ancient trees at the side were also crawling with poisonous beasts. Black arrow poison frog, red chain snake, black belly mamba, three-colored black widow, golden toad, 5 poison jade cloud spider. All kinds of poisonous creatures gathered above the black pool. It was shocking. Croak! Right at this moment, a strange thunderous sound was heard. It was like the sound of drums and thunder. Many poisonous beasts in the black pool felt uneasy when they heard this strange sound. Shinner, look over there. Hearing the voice of the beautiful woman in white, he looked at the shallow beach at the side of the black pool. He saw a piece of land suddenly protruding out from the shallow beach. The stones trembled and the moonlight shone. A dark-skinned, strange big fellow drilled out from the ground. Croak. From time to time, there would be a kind of thunderous frog croak. The croak shook, and the sound wave actually caused the rocks in the surrounding hundreds of meters to shake and shift. Seven-star jade toad. Seeing this big toad, Feng Yi was moved. Wang Xian's eyes looked at this poisonous beast, and his expression changed slightly. The seven-star jade beast was one of the kings among the poison-type soul beasts. Its grade was extremely high, and it was the king of all poisonous toads. Wang Xian had seen it in an ancient book about poison-type soul beasts in the Wang family's library. It was described that the seven-star jade toad had 7-star pustules on its back. Each pustule represented 1,000 years of maturity. This kind of poisonous toad had a lazy temperament and generally wouldn't attack easily. However, its venom was extremely overbearing and insidious. Even if it was an Earth rank expert, they would definitely die. It usually ate many poisonous creatures as food. Almost 4,000 years of maturity. Wang Xian looked at this poisonous toad. This poisonous toad's skin was oily green, and there were 3 disgusting black pustules on its back that had already bloomed. The 4th pustule had already appeared. It was obviously close to 4,000 years of maturity. When this 7-star poisonous toad appeared, an invisible deterrence appeared. Many poisonous creatures backed away from more than half of the black pool and stayed far away. This 7-star poisonous toad was the king among the many poison-type soul beasts in the black pool. Shinner, what do you think of this 7-star poisonous toad? Feng Yi looked at the white-clothed youth beside her with a questioning gaze. Wang Xian was somewhat silent. It was unlikely that 2 poison kings would appear in one place. The legend of the 3-headed poison flood dragon in the black pool might not exist. However, this 7-star jade toad, whether it was its age or the ability of its soul ring to strengthen it, was somewhat different from Wang Xian's original idea. Actually, this 7-star jade toad's soul ring is comparable to your frost dragon poison spirit vine. It contains the power of the toxic strengthening. It can definitely strengthen your frost dragon poison spirit vine's poison ability to the limit. Who knows? It might even have the chance to evolve your frost dragon poison spirit vine into a toxic overlord grass. The toxic overlord grass was an extremely powerful martial soul after a poison-type martial soul evolved. There were also the toxic overlord flower and the poison immortal empress. This was a good way to go about it. After pondering for a moment, Wang Xian shook his head. Feng Yi was somewhat puzzled. Wang Xian did not explain. It was not that the ultimate poison immortal empress's power was weak. In fact, as a high-level form of a poison-type martial soul, the poison immortal empress was extremely terrifying. It could be said to be a mid-high level martial soul form at the top of the pyramid. However, the path that Wang Xian had decided on long ago was to mainly strengthen the water type, and the poison type was only a supplementary development. Right at this moment, Wang Xian's heart stirred. He looked around the black pool, and the surrounding poisonous insects' cries actually quieted down in an instant. Something was wrong. Chapter 1241. A powerful fellow has arrived. Xian, it seems that your luck tonight is not bad. At this time, Feng Yi's voice quietly sounded. She grabbed Wang Xian's arm, and the 2 figures landed on the top of an ancient tree like a breeze. Croak. At this time, the 7-star jade toad seemed to have sensed something and let out a warning buzz. The poisonous creatures in the pool parted like a tide, opening up a path for him. Squeak, squeak. A strange, gloomy, and hoarse voice came from the forest on the side of the black pool. The strange voice was extremely hoarse, but there was a special gloominess and mystery to it. In Wang Xian's eyes, countless scorpions emerged from the depths of the forest like a tide on the side of the black pool, occupying the entire forest. Even the tree trunks could be seen densely packed and terrifying scorpions that made one's scalp tingle. There were many types. It seems that a scorpion king has appeared in the forest over there. This scorpion king wants to compete with the 7-star jade toad for the title of Poison King. Feng Yi's beautiful eyes flickered with splendor. A mountain could not accommodate 2 tigers. This sentence was also suitable for poisonous creatures. The Black Pool was the place where the extreme yin energy gathered. It was a paradise for poisonous creatures and the best feng shui in the eyes of poisonous creatures. Only kings could live there. I wonder what kind of scorpion king it is. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. There were many types of scorpion kings. Everyone knew that there were Scarlet Scorpion King, Black Water Scorpion King, 6-Yin Scorpion King, Burning Flame Scorpion King, 3-Eyed Jade-Eyed Scorpion King, and many others. It should be the Black Water Scorpion King. This place is densely forested and can't see the sun all year round. Moreover, the water yin energy is dense, and the life energy is brewing death energy. It is the most suitable place for the Black Water Scorpion King to live. Feng Yi's beautiful eyes fell on the depths of the forest. Among the many scorpions, as Feng Yi said, the Black Water Scorpion occupied the majority. It was a very special scorpion. Its entire body was as black as ink, but its tail was scarlet red. At a glance, one could tell that it was a highly poisonous creature. The Black Water Scorpion's attack power was extremely strong and incomparably ferocious. This kind of scorpion was not afraid of meat and would even bite each other of its own kind. Rumble. Under the moonlight, a large area of ancient trees fell. A huge and terrifying monster appeared in the ancient forest. It was a huge black scorpion the size of a bull. Its 6 scorpion legs were like sharp blades, easily cutting through the ancient trees in the forest. There was a pair of middle eyes in the middle of its back. They were as black as ink, and there were 3 side eyes on each side of its front. They shone with a cold and cruel light. Sizzle. Several slender tails danced in the air like whips. The scarlet tails carried a sweet scent. As the scent passed by, the broken pieces of the ancient trees and rocks became like fermented food, turning into pitch-black poisonous water. It's actually a mutated Blackwater Scorpion King. Feng Yi was astonished. 3-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King? Wang Xian's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. This Scorpion King exuded a very strong pressure. Clearly, it was over 4,000 years old. In terms of age, it was even superior to the 7-star jade toad. The rarest thing about it was that it was a water-type and poison-type soul beast. Xian, you've taken a fancy to this 3-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King? The beautiful woman in white saw the surprise in Wang Xian's eyes. That's right. Wang Xian nodded, his eyes moving slightly. This Blackwater Scorpion King is excellent in both water-type and poison-type. Especially after it mutated, it seems to have some mysterious abilities. It's very suitable for my Frost Dragon Poison Vine. The most important thing is that it's old enough. It's just that after it mutated, its strength has probably surpassed the average Earth-rank soul martial artist. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with. Wang Xian frowned. The beautiful woman doted on Wang Xian to the bone. Seeing this, she immediately spoke. That's simple. Xian, take a look at Mother's methods. Her expression was indifferent, as if the mutated 3-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King was an ant. A circle of scarlet invisible divine fire flew out from her body. There's an extremely dignified, noble, and primitive aura. The moment they felt this extremely dense and hot aura, countless poisonous creatures in the Blackwater pool began to flee and disappear into the water. Even the 7-star jade toad was no exception. The Phoenix martial soul of the Phoenix clan was the nemesis of countless poison-type soul beasts, especially the Phoenix divine fire that could burn anything. To many poison-type soul beasts, it was a disaster. Rumble. The 3-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King was abnormally fierce. When it encountered a powerful enemy, although its eyes were filled with fear, it waved its 3 scorpion tails and tore through the sky to attack the beautiful woman in white. With more than 4,000 years of maturity, Its strength was extremely tyrannical, especially the poisonous barbs on the three scorpion tails. Even if a heaven rank expert was infected, they would be turned into thick water. "Good beast, you actually dare to attack me." After the beautiful woman in white's figure appeared in midair, the phoenix fire wings behind her spread open. Her eyes were cold, and an invisible wave appeared from her body and suddenly swept over. With the naked eye, the three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King's three poisonous tails seemed to have encountered an unparalleled existence. They suddenly froze in midair, unable to move. Heaven Rank Domain. Wang Xian's eyes lit up. That was the simplified version of the power of space and time. Every heaven rank expert would give birth to a heaven rank domain after comprehending their soul skills to the limit. Feng Yi's talent was extraordinary. She was actually at the peak of the earth rank, and she had already received the comprehension of a heaven rank expert. It was shocking. Bang, bang, bang. It seemed to be the sound of rocks exploding inch by inch. It was accompanied by a mournful and hoarse low hiss. The three scarlet poisonous tails broke inch by inch. The invisible domain power covered the three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King's shell and broke inch by inch. The three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King's 6 scorpion legs also broke inch by inch at the same time. The huge three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King was like a crab that had its shell peeled off. It was extremely miserable. After a moment, it was only left with its last breath. Without needing Feng Yi to call out, Wang Xian extended a hand, and the frost WRM poison spirit vine flew out. It was like a straight poisonous needle that pierced into the three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King's head and gently stirred it. The three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King immediately took its last breath. Seeing this, the dense flames around Feng Yi's body retracted, and the invisible power retracted into her body. Her beautiful face slightly heaved a sigh of relief. Although she had comprehended the Phoenix Clan's Phoenix domain, she was still in the Earth rank. Opening her domain like this consumed a lot of energy, and she wouldn't be able to take it after a long time. On the side, following the death of the three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King, the group of poisonous scorpions ran away without a trace. On the ground, a faint white light was emitted from the lifeless three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King. Gradually, it formed a white soul ring. After the death of a soul beast that was over 4,000 years old, its soul ring would be pure white. It emitted an abnormally dense pressure. Wang Xian's eyes flickered, and he immediately sat down cross-legged. He activated his soul power, released his martial soul, and guided the soul ring. Chapter 1242. Wang Xian was undoubtedly much more familiar with condensing a soul ring for the second time. Condensing a soul ring for the second time not only required the support of a vast amount of soul power, but at the same time, one also needed to be familiar with and understand the skills within the soul ring, and even control at least 10% of them. This was a much higher requirement for a soul martial artist. But to Wang Xian, with the creator space as his foundation, there was no pressure. Endless soul power surged into the soul ring, and the second white soul ring quickly stabilized on the ice dragon poisonous vine, a 4,500-year soul ring. In Feng Yi's impression, many peerless geniuses in this realm could only withstand 3,000 years at most. Furthermore, to be able to stabilize it in such a short period of time, this was quite shocking. This also meant that Wang Xian's foundation was stable and his soul power was vast. Rolling soul power flowed down from the soul ring like lava and merged with the ice dragon poisonous vine. Faint white soul power flowed out from the martial soul. The ice dragon poisonous vine was changing rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. The icy blue vine turned black, and the saw-toothed leaves became tight and thin. The vine was growing, and traces of dark red thorns could be vaguely seen on the vine. The tip of the vine was hardening, sharpening, and becoming more piercing like the scarlet venomous stinger of a scorpion. The spirit vine swayed and swayed, and new vines appeared from both sides. Following that, a soul power vortex gradually appeared above the strengthened martial soul, and rolling soul power turned into a long river that flowed into the body of the white-clothed youth sitting cross-legged. Seeing that everything was on the right track, Feng Yi's tensed expression relaxed slightly. But in the next moment, the beautiful lady's expression changed drastically. Kill. Two extremely cold, killing intents suddenly flew out from the surrounding thick clouds. Two figures soared through the air and blasted towards the white-clothed youth sitting cross-legged. Two waves of soul power were earth-shattering and raging waves. They were two terrifying experts in long robes. Their expressions were cold. They were none other than the flying star, Meng Zhen, who had rushed over. After coming into contact with the Yi family, the two of them quickly found the location of the black water pool with the guidance of the many tracking experts of the Yi family and suddenly arrived at this juncture. According to the young master's orders, the two of them first locked onto Wang Xian, and the moment they attacked, they used their famous ultimate move. Meteor Blade, Star Splitter Arrow. Fei Xing Meng Zhen. Feng Yi recognized the two. These two people were not nameless among the Earth-grade experts of the West Chu Empire. Both of their martial spirits were peculiar tool martial spirits. Fei Xing's martial spirit was the flying star saber, which could break through anything. Wherever the saber light went, people would be killed before they could even react. Meng Zhen's Star Splitter Bow was a powerful weapon for long-range attacks. It was said to be able to shoot down stars. Feng Yi couldn't care less about her anger. Her figure flashed and blocked in front of Wang Xian. An invisible force gushed out like a landslide and a tsunami. It suddenly stopped the flying star knife and the star splitter arrow. It's a domain. Fei Xing and Meng Zhen's expressions changed drastically. The two of them could feel the terrifying heat from the flying dagger and the star arrow directly penetrating into the depths of their souls. In that instant, their faces turned scarlet red. The terrifyingly high temperature almost roasted their insides. No, she hasn't broken through to the heaven stage yet. She won't be able to hold on for long. Fei Xing groaned. Let's exhaust her to death. On the side, Meng Zhen's vicissitudes of life flickered slightly. He glanced at Feng Yi and simultaneously urged the majestic soul power in his body to flow into his martial spirit. Natal star descend. Starlight surged from their bodies. In the 33rd layer of the Milky Way above their heads, two stars lit up. The majestic power of the stars turned into a solid pillar of light that poured into their physical strength. Their strength increased greatly and was amplified by their martial spirits. Buzz! Buzz! The flying star knife and the star splitter arrow shot towards Feng Yi's body like a stream of light. Earth-grade experts were different from profound-grade experts. They were able to set their own star in the 33rd layer of the Milky Way. The strengthening of the star's power was not something an ordinary profound-grade expert could compare to. I also have the power of the stars. The power of the Phoenix constellation descend. Following Feng Yi's angry shout, a large number of stars in the 33rd layer of the Milky Way above their heads lit up. Strands of illusory starlight connected these stars and turned into a huge constellation. It was like a phoenix flapping its wings. Compared to the flying star, Meng Zhen and Meng Zhen's starlight that was 10 times more intense shot down and enveloped Feng Yi's body. The phoenix flames in Feng Yi's body surged. The violent power pushed back like a raging wave and bombarded the flying star knife and the star splitter arrow. Pucci. The martial spirits of the two Earth-grade experts trembled, and they spat out a mouthful of blood. The shock in their eyes could not be concealed. The power of the constellation. How is this possible? Their eyes were filled with disbelief. As everyone knew, only heaven-grade experts could comprehend the profound meaning of the constellation. Feng Yi was obviously only in the Earth-grade realm, although she was at the peak of the Earth-grade. The huge pressure rushed over, and the two of them spat out blood. They only felt that under this pressure, they were extremely small. Kill. Feng Yi's eyes flashed a trace of coldness. All of a sudden, her complexion changed, and a strange flush appeared. Pucci. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and it turned into a blood mist. The huge starlight pattern around her fluctuated slightly, and in the next moment, it turned into silver dust and dissipated. The huge starlight fluctuation dissipated. The starlight backfired. Her injuries haven't healed after 6 years. She's dead for sure. Fei Xing's gloomy horse face flashed with a trace of joy. Let's put in more effort. Don't hurt her. She is young master's prey. If we kill her, young master will not be happy. Our mission is to kill that little bastard. His beautiful beard fluttered in the wind. Although he was already middle-aged, Meng Zhen was definitely a first-class handsome man. He was very calm. Fei Xing's expression suddenly calmed down from his excitement. Thinking of that terrifying young master, he secretly shivered. The two of them looked at each other, and their eyes fell on the white-clothed youth sitting cross-legged on the ground. Their killing intent was dense. They were waiting for Feng Yi to be unable to hold on, so that they could use a thunderous momentum to kill Wang Xian in one move. Feng Yi's beautiful face was like a flame. The phoenix god fire that had calmed down in her body suddenly erupted and went out of control, causing her to be like an arrow at the end of its flight. The phoenix god fire around her body fluctuated as she struggled to support the domain. Seeing that the phoenix god fire in her body was about to go out of control, her phoenix eyes revealed a trace of determination. Even if she had to perish together with these two, she couldn't let them hurt Wang Xian. At this moment, a change occurred. 3 black and red lights shot out from the depths of Feng Yi's back. Like lightning, they locked onto Fei Xing and Meng Zhen. Not good. The two of them's expressions changed. Just as they were about to use their methods, the 2 red lights suddenly descended and pointed at the 2 cold-faced people's foreheads with wanton killing intent. Crack! The sound of a watermelon breaking rang out. Chapter 1243. With the skull shattered. Even if an Earth-rank powerhouse's vitality was far greater than ordinary people, they would still die immediately. Feng Yi turned around. At this time, the white-clothed youth had already completed his advancement. Those 3 scorpion tail-like poisonous vines shrunk inch by inch and disappeared into his palm. Just now, it was a sneak attack that killed Fei Xing and Meng Zhen. Are you okay? Wang Xian frowned and looked at the white-clothed beauty. Just as she was about to speak, a fierce phoenix poison fire spread into her internal organs. Under the violent impact, the white-clothed beauty clutched her towering chest, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Her body swayed, and just as she was about to fall to the ground, a strong arm wrapped around her waist. Leaning on Wang Xian's arm, the white-clothed woman's cheeks were as red as fire. She was indescribably beautiful. Hugging the white-clothed beauty's shockingly soft waist, the white-clothed beauty's body temperature rose higher and higher. Looks like it relapsed again. Wang Xian shook his head. Rip. It was accompanied by a powerless and moving cry. Her bra was directly torn apart, revealing her towering snow-white breasts. The white-clothed young man bent down. The white-clothed woman's face was flushed red, and her red phoenix eyes were watery. Her charm was astonishing, and shyness flickered in her eyes. She turned her face to the other side, not daring to look at him. However, from time to time, a strange feeling would come from her chest, causing her face to blush. She was extremely aroused, and her 2 slender legs would occasionally twist together. The next morning, the golden crow rose from the east. The stream gurgled. On top of the rock, the white-clothed youth sat cross-legged. He seemed to have sat here cross-legged for the entire night. Beside him, Fei Xing and Meng Zhen's cold corpses were still there. At this time, the white-clothed youth on the rock looked much more mature than before. He looked like a 13 or 14-year-old youth with a jade-like face. It was just that his handsomeness leaned towards femininity. This was due to the influence of his martial soul. The strengthening of the water type and poison type leaned towards femininity and had no affinity with masculinity. There was a soul-stirring, soul power fluctuation on his body. Peak of the black rank. After obtaining the second soul ring, his soul power directly rose to the peak of the black rank. The majestic soul power did not show any signs of weakness or disorder. Next up is the third soul ring. Wang Xian fell into deep thought after a night of refining. The Giant Spirit Mountain Range was only one of the mid-tier hunting grounds around Giant Spirit City. The three-tailed Blackwater Scorpion King was probably the strongest mid-tier soul beast in this hunting ground. His third soul ring was no small matter. He would probably have to set his sights on high-ranked soul beasts, and they would have to be at least 6,000 to 8,000 years old. Of course, the average profound rank expert on the continent wouldn't require such an exaggerated third soul ring. Most of the time, the limit was 4,000 or 5,000 years. That was still within the range of mid-ranked soul beasts. Most mid-ranked hunting grounds would be able to fulfill this condition. But the power in Wang Xian's body was not ordinary. The nameless soul scripture was extremely tyrannical, and the soul power he cultivated far surpassed that of ordinary soul martial artists of the same level. Wang Xian continued to choose water-type and poison-type soul beasts, but there weren't many high-tier soul beasts. Wang Xian's eyes mainly fell onto several famous high-grade hunting grounds in the West Chu Empire. Although the West Chu Empire had a vast territory, it didn't have many high-ranked hunting grounds. There were only two, and one was the Soul Beast Forest in the west. The other was the Blazing Mountain Range in the south. That place was close to the Scarlet Cloud County in the south, and its terrain was extremely special. It could be said to be a famous dry land in the West Chu Empire. The Blazing Mountain Range could be excluded. That place was a naturally huge volcanic mountain range. Among the high-ranked soul beasts, most of them were fire-type soul beasts or some other special soul beasts. The only remaining target was the Soul Beast Forest. The Soul Beast Forest was vast, and the terrain was complex. It spanned across a portion of the West Chu Empire and the Great Shun Empire's territory. There were many high-ranked soul beasts living there, and there were even peak Lord-class soul beasts. Naturally, there were many types of water-type and poison-type soul beasts in that vast forest. A ray of light flashed, and Wang Xian stretched out a hand. A strange vine that was as agile as a flood dragon grew out of his hand. Two soul rings fluctuated, and the dense soul power produced a huge sense of oppression. The first soul ring was an earthy yellow color, which meant that it was at least 1,000 years old. Generally speaking, soul rings below 1,000 years were pale yellow. The second soul ring was white, and it was as dense as white cotton. Generally speaking, soul rings between 3,000 and 5,000 years went from pale white to pure white. The older the soul ring, the purer the color. Soul rings between 6,000 and 9,999 years belonged to high-ranked soul beasts. High-ranked soul beasts' soul rings were gold, from pale gold to pure gold. Wang Xian's first soul ring was an earthy yellow color, which meant that it was obtained from a top-ranked, low-ranked soul beast. The second soul ring was pure white. Generally speaking, Wang Xian's two soul rings were quite powerful, far surpassing the majority of profound ranked soul beasts. They were even not inferior to some earth-ranked soul beasts. However, there were still some differences between them and some earth-ranked soul beasts. Earth-ranked soul beasts could sense the stars of heaven and earth and receive the power of the stars to temper their martial soul and physique. Especially during battle, they could receive the support of the stars of heaven and earth. This ability was not something that profound ranked soul beasts could compare to. Wang Xian tried to use his soul remembrance to sense the stars of heaven and earth, but he could only vaguely sense them and was unable to use his soul power. The Wang family's cultivation method was somewhat incomplete, and the data he deduced was not enough. He was unable to accurately find the specific cultivation data of the earth-ranked soul beasts. I'm afraid I still need to find a sec to borrow some ancient books and analyze the power of the earth rank, and even the heaven rank. Wang Xian pondered, and there was also a trace of worry in his heart. The mastermind behind the scenes who injured Feng Yi 6 years ago was able to casually send out 2 Earth-rank soul beasts. He was afraid that his own strength was very shocking. The next time he made a move, it would not be as simple as 2 Earth-rank soul beasts. He raised his gaze slightly and looked at the poison vine in his hand. At this time, the poison vine had evolved for the second time. It was not appropriate to call it the Frost Dragon Poison Vine. It should be called the Blackwater Dragon Spirit Vine. It had the coiling power of a flood dragon, the powerful poison power of the Blackwater Poison Scorpion, and the ability to control the power of the water spirit. It could topple mountains and overturn seas. In the profound rank, it far surpassed other martial souls. Next, I have to enter the Soul Beast Forest as soon as possible and obtain the 3rd martial soul. Wang Xian had a feeling that after entering the Earth rank, the power of the Master God Space would be able to directly interfere. Far away, on a green stone, a beautiful woman in white leaned sideways. Her black hair was scattered like a waterfall on the green stone. She leaned sideways and supported her head with one hand as she looked at the white-clothed youth in the distance. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be thinking of something, and occasionally, shyness would flow. It was very charming. At this moment, the white-clothed youth stood up and looked at the beautiful woman in white. Let's go. Next target, Soul Beast Forest. Chapter 1244. Wind Ridge County, Eternal Sect. Wind Ridge County was a county adjacent to the Soul Beast Forest in the west of the West Chu Empire. It was considered an important province in the west of the West Chu Empire. Because it was adjacent to the Soul Beast Forest, there were many soul martial artists here, including some large and small sections. The West Chu Empire had also deployed a large number of troops here to intimidate the large and small sects in the southwest. The Eternal Sect was an extremely ancient sect. However, it was only a small sect among the hundreds of sects in the southwest. The reason was that it had declined. The Eternal Sect's mountain gate was on a rather beautiful mountain peak in Wind Ridge. This place was called Shui Ping Peak. The mountain peak was majestic and not small in size. Although it could not be considered a lofty and majestic mountain range, it still had some beauty to it. Such a beautiful mountain peak could barely be considered a good place. However, to the Eternal Sect, which had occupied most of the Spirit Mountains and Blessed Lands in Wind Ridge County at its peak, this difference was too great. Eternal Sect. At this moment, 2 figures were looking at the mountain peak below the sea of clouds. There were many buildings and palaces on the mountain peak. Each brick and tile was very grand. However, just by sensing, one could sense that there were only 2 or 3 people left in this large sect. The strongest was an Earth Realm expert with an aura of death. He was already at the end of his life and was on the verge of collapse. These 2 were none other than Feng Yi and Wang Xian, who had rushed from the giant Spirit Mountain range to the Soul Beast Forest. Feng Yi said when she saw Wang Xian frown, "Xian, don't underestimate this sect. Although it is a sect that cultivates ancient techniques, it is inevitable that it will decline now that it has flourished. However, it was once prominent. Even the ancient clans have to be respectful to it." Ancient techniques, modern techniques, Wang Xian's eyes flashed. Ancient techniques and modern techniques were the 2 main cultivation schools of soul martial artists. Modern techniques evolved from ancient techniques. A portion of powerful soul martial artists discovered the changes in heaven and earth and the migration of all living things. As a result, they evolved a cultivation method that was suitable for the environment of heaven and earth. In fact, it also proved that the efficiency of ancient techniques was declining bit by bit. In today's world, where ancient techniques were gradually eliminated, modern techniques shone brightly. The Eternal Sect was one of the ancient sections. Due to their emphasis on sect rules, they didn't walk the path of the modern Eternal Sect in that great era and gradually declined. Xian, didn't you want to find an ancient technique as a basis? The eternal sex inheritance is one of the most outstanding inheritances among the ancient techniques. Now that the eternal sect has declined, those ancient records have been buried. I believe they won't refuse my request. Feng Yi's expression flickered with sharpness. After saying that, Feng Yi looked at Wang Xian. Xian, actually, you don't have to value ancient techniques so much. Although I don't have a lot of them, I still have a few sets of cultivation techniques that are more suitable for the modern technique school. In terms of quality, they're definitely not inferior to the inheritances of ordinary large sects. Feng Yi was truly puzzled. Why would Wang Xian think of looking for the legacy cultivation methods of those ancient sects that had been eliminated? Wang Xian shook his head. Only the ancient can understand the present. The cultivation method inheritance contains traces of the mysteries of the evolution of heaven and earth. Such traces are excellent resources for the Master God space. Of course, Wang Xian wouldn't say this out loud. It was just Tao. I need a part of the outstanding ancient technique inheritance as a basis to deduce the most suitable cultivation method for myself. This wasn't a lie either. The deduction of the Nameless Soul Sutra's Earth-level cultivation methods required a basis. 3 days later, in the Eternal Sex Inheritance Pavilion, faint sunlight spilled in through the window. In the neat library, the ancient records were placed in an unusually neat manner. Wang Xian put down the last ancient book in his hand. He closed his eyes slightly to digest it. After a while, he opened his eyes. He couldn't hide the smile in his eyes. This time, he had benefited a lot. Using a few modern technique inheritances in exchange for a few days to read in the Eternal Sex Inheritance Pavilion. It's really a good deal. It's a pity that those fellows don't know what's good for them. Wang Xian shook his head inwardly. There are so many complete ancient technique inheritance manuals. As long as someone is diligent and willing to study them, it won't be difficult for them to find their own path of modern technique. He looked extremely satisfied. The Eternal Sex Inheritance manuals were complete. They had a detailed description of the earth and heaven levels. With these manuals, the Nameless Soul Sutra's earth and heaven levels cultivation methods would be completely completed. But then, Wang Xian couldn't help but laugh. He had forgotten that he had the creator space as his foundation. He had the creator space's deduction ability. Ordinary people wouldn't have the ability to digest all the manuals in the Inheritance Pavilion. He looked at the vast sea of clouds by the window. Faint golden light shone in through the window that was entwined with green vines. The white-clothed youth was tall and slender. He was so handsome that he didn't seem like someone from this world. Then he stretched lazily. He opened the door to the Inheritance Pavilion. Outside the door, Feng Yi looked slightly happy. Xian, did you find what you were looking for? She glanced at the black-robed old man beside her. The black-robed old man looked like he had seen the vicissitudes of life. His face was like old tree bark. Although his hair was still black, he gave off a feeling of twilight. He was the Eternal Sect's last guardian, Hu Songzi. He was also the only Earth Realm expert in the Eternal Sect that Wang Xian had sensed 3 days ago. Wang Xian knew what Feng Yi meant and nodded immediately. Let's go. Excuse me. He cupped his hands towards Hu Songzi. You're welcome. Hu Songzi opened his eyes. His expression was weathered. He looked at the white-clothed youth and nodded. He hadn't seen such a graceful youth in a long time. The reason why he agreed to Feng Yi's request so readily was that he hoped to form a good relationship with her, besides the few present-day books that were very important to the Eternal Sect. This white-clothed youth was already a peak Black Realm expert at such a young age. In the future, he would definitely be a peerless almighty whose name would shake the galaxy. He would take this opportunity to form a good relationship with her. If the Eternal Sect were to encounter a calamity in the future, this would be a life-saving straw. This Hu Songzi has good taste. Seeing that Hu Songzi didn't take advantage of his seniority and was instead polite, Feng Yi finally felt a trace of joy in her heart. In reality, Feng Yi felt that the Eternal Sect had gained a great deal by exchanging a few present-day books for a few days of reading time in the inheritance pavilion. According to her personality, she would at most give some benefits. Unfortunately, this was the white-clothed youth's request. Feng Yi had always doted on the white-clothed youth, so she couldn't refuse. Seeing that Hu Songzi was so tactful, a trace of a smile finally appeared on her beautiful face. The two turned into streaks of light and rushed into the sky. They disappeared into the clouds in the blink of an eye. The peak was shrouded in clouds. In the palace, separated by a thick palace door, Yun Shui knelt on the ground. Fei Xing and Meng Zhen are dead? They died at Feng Yi's hands? A cold voice sounded from within the palace door. Chapter 1245. Young Master, it's this subordinate's negligence this time. Yun Shui lowered her head. Trash, you can't even handle such a small matter. After a long time, a cold and angry voice came from the palace gate. Is Feng Yi still in Giant Spirit City? It's this subordinate's incompetence. Young Master, according to our information, Feng Yi and Wang Xian's whereabouts are unknown after the Giant Spirit Mountain range. However, not long ago, news came from the Windridge County that they had stayed in the Eternal Sect for a period of time. Yun Shui lowered her head. This subordinate thinks that their target might be the Great Spirit Beast Forest. This subordinate and the others think that Feng Yi is about to break through to the Heaven rank and wants a hunt for her fourth soul ring. It's impossible to break through to the Heaven rank. Feng Yi was hit by my Phoenix-seeking Phoenix. That Phoenix-seeking Phoenix was refined by the Sex Pill Emperor. It's made from 9 types of Phoenix feather flames and 108 types of unique Yang poison. It's an extremely strange, poisonous flame. Once it enters the body, it will definitely merge into the depths of the martial soul. She definitely can't refine it. If she can't refine this strange, poisonous flame, she will never be able to enter the Heaven rank in this lifetime. A gloomy sneer came from the palace gate. She probably sensed something and put up a last-ditch struggle, but it's useless. At most, this young master will be able to comprehend the last level of the 10,000-star treasure book in half a month and comprehend the mysteries of the Heaven rank. At that time, this young master will personally take care of that bitch and her son. Heaven rank? A trace of envy flashed through Yun Shui's eyes. Heaven rank. Once one advanced to the Heaven rank, whether it was one's identity or status, it would undergo an earth-shaking change. No matter which sect it was, when a Heaven rank expert was born in the sect, they would hold a banquet and respectfully address him as the ancestor. This was a symbol of strength. With this young master breaking through to the Heaven rank at such a young age, even those old monsters in the sect had no choice but to submit to him. At that time, even if Feng Yi was from the Phoenix clan, the Phoenix clan would definitely not make things difficult for a young Heaven rank expert with a boundless future just for Feng Yi. The Great Spirit Beast Forest, the Sea of Clouds, the Spirit Beast Forest, stretched as far as the eye could see, as high as the mountains. Above the clouds, a map appeared in Wang Xian's hand. This map was a summary of all the information he had regarding the Great Soul Beast Forest from the Eternal Sect's Inheritance Pavilion. It basically included the areas where the various types of soul beasts gathered. The red lines were exceptionally clear. Wang Xian's targets were water-type and poison-type soul beasts, numbering more than 6,000. This was a high-ranked soul beast. There were many places that could be ruled out. Excluding a portion of the areas that were underlined, there were only a few places left in Wang Xian's eyes. After several evolutions, the water spirit vine had become the black water dragon spirit grass. The next evolution would be the black water dragon scale flower. The evolution direction of the water spirit vine was basically fixed. There were only a few paths left to choose. Naturally, Wang Xian already had a plan for his next soul ring. Shall we go to the Jade Lake first? Jade Lake? Isn't it the territory of the Jade Water Spirit Emperor? Feng Yi was slightly surprised, but she nodded. The Jade Water Spirit Emperor evolved from the Jade Water Dragonwood. The Jade Water Dragonwood is a plant-type and water-type soul beast. Its soul ring has a huge effect on strengthening the vitality of plant-type soul beasts. Using this soul beast soul ring as my third soul ring is indeed the best choice. Wang Xian smiled. It wasn't just that. The jade water dragonwood had several mysterious uses in the ancient books. It wasn't as simple as just increasing the vitality of plant-type soul beasts. Jade Lake. There were green mountains and clear waters here. Countless ancient trees lined up in rows. At a glance, it was as if they had come to the depths of a primeval forest that had been untouched for thousands of years. To the soul martial artists who often roamed the outskirts of the great soul beast forest, most of them knew that this was one of the playgrounds for plant-type and water-type soul beasts. It was very dangerous here. Very few soul martial artists entered this place alone. Most of them chose to form groups or hire a hunting group to escort them in. A hunting group was a special organization that relied on the great soul beast forest as a large-scale hunting ground for soul beasts. They helped the young masters of some large families hunt soul beasts and received a certain amount of benefits. This was a very profiteering line of work. However, experienced veterans knew that most of these hunting groups weren't good people. If they met some good people, it would be fine. Most of them would only raise the price at the last minute and extort some at most. If he were to encounter some black-hearted hunting groups, he would be in for a bad time. These hunting groups were active in the great soul beast forest, and sometimes they wouldn't mind acting as bandits, robbers for money and women. Wang Xian and Feng Yi had just entered the edge of the Jade Lake when they were entangled by several brokers from hunting groups. The outskirts of the various large hunting grounds were usually guarded by brokers under the command of these hunting groups. Normally, when they saw people coming, they would come forward to entangle them and snatch their business. Wang Xian and Feng Yi both had extraordinary temperaments. With one look, one could tell that they were from aristocratic families. Especially Feng Yi's absolutely beautiful figure. Many brokers at the outskirts of the Jade Lake occasionally turned their gazes over, carrying a sense of greed and passion. However, when they saw several brokers from large hunting groups coming forward, some brokers from small hunting groups could only suppress the unwillingness in their hearts and wander around the surroundings. Young master, madam, please consider. Our Bloody Slaughter hunting group is a famous large hunting group in this area. We have more than 300 members. The leader and 2 vice leaders are both Earth stage experts. With our escort, we guarantee that you will return with a bountiful harvest this time. Our cool Breeze hunting group can also guarantee your safety. We will give you a favorable discount. Choose our Thawing Fire hunting group. We are the overlords of this area. Several brokers looked at Wang Xian and Feng Yi with fervent gazes. This madam said that we don't need any hunting groups. If you continue to follow, don't blame this madam for being impolite. Feng Yi had long noticed the unclean gazes of these brokers. If she didn't have some misgivings, she would have burned these people to ashes with her Phoenix Divine Fire. Along the way, the two met many members of such hunting groups who came forward to strike up a conversation. They had long been annoyed. When the brokers were reprimanded, their expressions suddenly turned cold. Looking at each other, one of the shifty-eyed middle-aged men glanced at Bai Yi with lewd eyes. Madam, don't regret it. You must know that there are all kinds of terrifying things in the great soul beast forest. When you encounter danger, I'm afraid that no one will be able to save you. I advise madam to think about it carefully. Yes, this great soul beast forest is not peaceful. If a beautiful woman like madam falls into the hands of someone with bad intentions, I'm afraid. Another middle-aged man also spoke in a strange tone. He was the broker from the Bloody Slaughter hunting group, who was abnormally polite from before. Feng Yi and Wang Xian looked at each other and sneered. They didn't want to pay attention to these brokers with bad intentions and went straight to the periphery of the Jade Lake. The brokers looked at each other and smiled gloomily. Go back and report to the leader. 2 more fat lambs have come. They hurriedly scattered. This group of people is going to be unlucky. Many brokers who were watching from the sidelines secretly shook their heads. The Bloody Slaughter hunting group, the cool Breeze hunting group, and the Thawing Fire hunting group weren't good people. Each of them was black-hearted and merciless. They would probably send people to intercept and kill them soon. Thinking that such a peerless beauty would fall into the hands of these hunting groups, many people secretly felt that it was a pity. Chapter 1246. Shin'er. We have to be careful later. Those people have impure thoughts and might already have their eyes on us. In the forest, Feng Yi's expression was serious. No worries. Wang Xian shook his head. In the forest, Wang Xian became more cautious after entering the Jade Water Lake. There are many plant-type soul beasts, demon spirit trees, in the forest. Demon spirit trees were tree demon soul beasts, and each of them was a high-level hunter in the forest. Their vines had paralyzing venom, and once caught, it would be hard to escape. In such an environment, generally speaking, plant-type martial souls wouldn't be of much use. Fire-type martial souls, on the other hand, could unleash the principle of mutual promotion and restraint to the extreme. Rumble. Two figures quickly shuttled through the forest. Feng Yi grabbed Wang Xian, and the two fiery red phoenix wings under her ribs swept out. No plant-type soul beasts dared to find trouble. Most soul beasts had high intelligence, and the older they were, the more they knew how to seek luck and avoid danger. If one were to talk about bullying the good and fearing the evil, there was probably no one better than them. The red light swept past. Within the forest, the savage and greedy demon spirit trees were like quails, trying their best to disguise themselves as ordinary ancient trees. The forest was quiet. Some greedy grass and flower-type plant-type soul beasts hid themselves deep in the forest. The tyrannical aura sweeping through the forest was too terrifying. Many tree demons and flower demons could feel that if they were swept by the terrifying flames, it would be a disaster. But it was clear that not all soul beasts were afraid of the power of fire. In the forest, there were many plant-type soul beasts that weren't afraid of fire. Within the forest, Feng Yi and Wang Xian's figures appeared on the ground, not far from the Jade Lake. They stopped their galloping momentum. In front of them, a strange soul beast was blocking their path. In midair, patches of green Chinese medicine packets seemed to have appeared. They were like mature dandelions floating in midair. It was a special plant-type soul beast. It's a spirit-eating seed. Feng Yi's jade face was filled with seriousness. Wang Xian frowned. In ancient books, he had seen the outline of this soul beast. Spirit-eating seed relied on absorbing the soul power of all living things to survive, and was an extremely rare parasitic soul beast. It was the demon spirit tree's soul beast companion. These spirit-devouring seeds were extremely sensitive to soul power fluctuations. It was like a moth flying into a flame. Clearly, the soul power undulations from their rapid flight had attracted the attention of these spirit-devouring seeds. Don't let them get within 3 feet of you. Otherwise, they will absorb your soul power. Feng Yi's expression changed. She moved and stood in front of Wang Xian. Creak, creak. Those teacup-sized traditional Chinese medicine bags with blue and green skin squeaked. Pairs of strange little eyes appeared in front of the traditional Chinese medicine bags, as though their eyes were glowing as they looked at Feng Yi and Wang Xian. Hundreds and thousands of them screamed as they crawled out from the tree trunks. They covered the sky and covered the earth, rushing down like a flood. Phoenix divine fire, incinerate worlds. Feng Yi smiled coldly and rolled up her sleeves. 4 to 5 fireballs appeared in front of her and transformed into small fire phoenixes that suddenly flew out with a fierce cry. Flames swept across the sky. Wherever the divine fire passed, the Chinese medicine packets were reduced to ashes. Too weak. Wang Xian shook his head. These parasitic soul beasts, as long as they were not close, were as weak as babies in the eyes of many powerful individuals. Creak, creak. However, the unique screams of the spirit-devouring seeds appeared again. More blue and green, traditional Chinese medicine bags crawled out from the ancient trees. This time, The number was more than 10 times more than before. It looked like there were tens of thousands. They gathered together. Their eyes were excited as they stared at the two of them. They screamed as they turned into ovens and charged at the two of them. It's useless no matter how many there are. Feng Yi smiled coldly. An intense ball of fire swept out as she waved her sleeves. Tens of thousands of spirit-devouring seeds suddenly turned to ashes. However, seeing this scene, Wang Xian shook his head inwardly and said, "Let's hurry and leave this place." These parasitic soul beast seeds absorb the tree demon's power to grow. Their vitality is exuberant and they grow very quickly. We can't kill them all. On the contrary, the more we kill, the more there will be. Creak, creak. Wang Xian already saw another wave of spirit-devouring seeds being born at the roots of the ancient trees. These seeds were like tumors of the roots of the tree demon. They expanded endlessly and were extremely terrifying. However, the spirit rings that were killed were completely useless. They were basically all less than 5 years old. These individuals were all less than 5 years old and were extremely weak. However, when they were grouped together, it was extremely shocking. Two figures rushed towards the jade water lake like flowing lights. Rumble. Flames bombarded, and from time to time, hundreds and thousands of spirit-devouring seeds would turn to ashes in the high-temperature flames. After a few waves of godfire, Feng Yi's chest heaved up and down. Her breathing was slightly chaotic. Wang Xian's figure was constantly moving as he observed these peculiar spirit-devouring seeds. Feng Yi had already been annoyed by these little things to no end. Phoenix constellation, descend. After exhausting a lot of energy, Feng Yi's jade face flashed with a trace of anger. She brazenly began to change the constellation power in the sky. A huge starlight descended from the starry sky, and a dense brilliance enveloped Feng Yi's body. Phoenix's fury. The expanding phoenix god fire exploded from Feng Yi's body. Creak, creak. A charred smell wafted through the air. Wang Xian looked over. The numerous spirit-devouring seeds in the air were suddenly swept clean. But following that, an even more frequent squeaking sound came from the roots of many ancient trees. Wang Xian frowned and looked over. In the entire forest, more than half of the ancient trees were emitting this strange sound. There are actually so many spirit-devouring seeds here. Feng Yi was shocked. Her jade face sunk. Just as she was about to make a move, Wang Xian grabbed her arm. Wait a minute. Wang Xian's face was grave as he looked at the sky. Feng Yi followed Wang Xian's gaze. This time, the rapidly growing spirit-devouring seeds did not immediately pounce over. Instead, they rushed towards a strange spirit-devouring seed in the center like a tide. Like a tide, hundreds of thousands and millions of spirit-devouring seeds rushed over. They were emitting a peculiar fluorescent light. In his eyes, they were subdued and fused inch by inch. It was as if a huge ball of light was born in the center of the forest. Not good. This seems to be the fusion evolution of a parasitic spirit beast. Seeing this scene, he seemed to have thought of a special situation. Wang Xian's face turned ugly. Fusion evolution? Feng Yi's delicate body trembled. Her expression was abnormally heavy. There was still a trace of disbelief in her eyes. How is this possible? Isn't this a phenomenon that only exists in legends? Chapter 1247. Fusion evolution was an extremely rare situation. Generally speaking, most soul beasts evolved when they reached maturity, causing a portion of the ancestral power in their bloodline to awaken and then evolve. This kind of evolution was called atavistic evolution. Another kind was to devour the power of other soul beasts, and the soul power in their body would increase explosively, thus evolving. During this process of evolution, the soul beast would more or less be affected by the devouring of other soul beasts, and its body would change. This kind of evolution was attributed to variant evolution. As for fusion evolution, it was almost in the legends. Generally speaking, Only soul beasts that lived in groups, such as parasitic soul beasts, would undergo fusion evolution. Before parasitic soul beasts evolved, their individual strength was extremely small, and they usually hunted in groups. But after fusion evolution, there would be a reversal. Their individual strength would become extremely strong. Roar! A huge fluctuation came from the center of the light ball, and a terrifying power erupted from the center. In the center of the light ball, the first thing that stretched out were 4 terrifying green-skinned limbs. Those limbs could be said to be extremely thick. Boom! It landed on the ground, and cracks appeared on the ground. Following, there was a terrifying big head that was like a wheat bucket. The monster also carried a green-blue bag on its back that looked like a chrysanthemum-shaped vase. It looked very funny. However, the heavy pressure that came with each breath was like a stormy sea. Feng Yi and Wang Xian's expressions were abnormally heavy. This pressure was close to that of a 10,000-year overlord. This is a spirit-eater beast king. Wang Xian's expression was grave as he said to Feng Yi in a deep voice, "Be careful. This spirit-eater beast king is formed by gathering the power of millions of spirit-eater seeds. It is close to 9,000 years old and has all the abilities of the spirit-eater seeds. There is also a very mysterious ability that is very difficult to deal with." Xian, you know this kind of soul beast? Feng Yi's beautiful eyes lit up, and she was slightly expectant. "Then do you know where its weakness is?" "I'm not sure about its weakness." Wang Xian shook his head. "I've only seen this kind of description in the Eternal Sex records, but I'm sure that it definitely has the ability to plunder and absorb soul power. In my opinion, you can try attacking its head, heart, or the swollen bag on its back." Wang Xian's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He was a little interested in this spirit-eater beast king. This spirit-eating beast king was extremely rare, and its abilities were mysterious. If his guess was correct, once it was killed, the soul ring it gave birth to would definitely be extremely outstanding. Phoenix Constellation's power, soaring phoenix wings. Almost without hesitation, Feng Yi used the power of the Phoenix constellation in the sky. Dense starlight shone down, and a power close to heaven rank appeared. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Heaven rank and suzerain rank were of the same rank. Feng Yi's strength was not inferior to the spirit-eating beast king. Screech! With a crisp phoenix cry, a fire phoenix with overflowing flames flew out from behind Feng Yi. Like a comet, it pounced towards the spirit-eating beast king. The moment the spirit-eating beast king took shape, it struck its head. Roar! A miserable roar was heard. The spirit-eating beast king's head was charred black, but a strong vitality could be seen emerging from its charred skin. An emerald blue light was emitted. Visible to the naked eye, the spirit-eating beast king's injuries were recovering. There's no effect. Its head isn't its weakness. Wang Xian shook his head. Roar! Just at this time, the spirit-eating beast king faced the sky and roared. In the midst of the roar, an earth-yellow ball of light appeared in its bloody mouth. In the next moment, it locked onto the two figures and broke through the air. Feng Yi's face changed. Her eyes were sharp and her hands were fast. She grabbed onto Wang Xian, and in a flash, she appeared 300 meters away. Rumble! An earth-shattering explosion sounded out. At the same time, a yellow mist filled the air. So smelly, Wang Xian's nose twitched. He felt dizzy. A terrifying stench that was enough to make him faint came out. It seemed to have drilled into his internal organs, and even his soul. Why is it so smelly? In the midst of the shock, Wang Xian's spirit power circulated and covered all the pores on his body. He pulled Feng Yi and flew away. Phoenix Constellation's power, Phoenix Tail Arrow. At this time, Feng Yi's expression was cold. Her entire body was covered in flames. Layers of yellow qi could not get close to her body. The terrifying fire congealed and transformed into a red arrow. Like a shooting star, it pierced through the disgusting yellow mist and suddenly struck the heavy, spirit-eating beast king's heart. The blazing phoenix tail arrow pierced through like a ray of light, straight into the heart. Roar! The spirit-eating beast king was an unbearable pain. It let out an earth-shattering roar. The surging sound waves shook the forest. Many strong martial artists at the Jade Lake were shocked. This level of spirit power undulation was not something an ordinary Earth stage martial artist could contend against. Many strong martial artists had strange expressions. The power of the phoenix tail arrow was extremely tyrannical. Rumble! The spirit-eating beast king's heart exploded. Layers of bluish-green flesh flew out. It was extremely terrifying. The fire landed on the ground. The beautiful lady in white had a pair of fire wings behind her. It was extremely beautiful. She looked at the spirit-eating beast king and frowned. She could see that although the spirit-eating beast king's heart had exploded, its life force had not weakened. Instead, the phoenix poison fire had invaded and burnt flesh was regenerating layer by layer. The beautiful lady in white was secretly shocked. What a difficult monster to kill. It can regenerate even after breaking its head and heart. Its life force is much stronger than plant-type spirit beasts. Let's try that vase-shaped pouch on its back. She tapped her foot, and a stream of light appeared in mid-air, revealing her figure. Phoenix divine fire burn all things. The dense fire was like a mighty sun. It locked onto the pouch on the spirit-eating beast king's back and suddenly fell. Bang! The spirit-eating beast king's aura was abnormally strong, but it looked abnormally heavy. It was still immersed in the wail of its heart exploding. The fire descended once again. Rumble! In the midst of the furious roar, the spore pouch on its back suddenly exploded. It was torn apart in the explosion of fire. Roar! The furious roar resounded through the clouds, as if it had exploded in this forest. It's not a weakness. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. The roar of a dying beast and the roar of a fighting beast were two completely different things. Wang Xian could clearly distinguish between them. This spirit-eating beast king's life force was simply tyrannical. It was much more tyrannical than expected. Be careful. Wang Xian's expression suddenly changed. At this moment, the fire surrounding the spirit-eating beast king suddenly fluctuated. Hundreds of root-like vines suddenly flew out and tied the beautiful lady in white in midair. The beautiful lady in white's jade-like face turned cold. She was about to mobilize the phoenix divine fire to burn these vines. But in the next moment, her jade-like face turned pale and a trace of shock flashed in her eyes. She only felt that she was soft and could not use the slightest bit of soul power. Furthermore, she could sense that her soul force was being silently sucked away by these strands of soul force. Chapter 1248. Looks like I can only do it. Seeing this scene, Wang Xian shook his head slightly. A trace of soul remembrance was triggered. He sensed the Master God space, the huge power surging, but it was very obscure. That was the obstruction of the Star River continent's heaven and earth power. However, as he advanced to the profound rank, the power of the Master God space could barely extend over a small part. He stretched out a finger, and an invisible force seemed to cut through time and space and bombarded the spirit-eating beast king. The enormous spirit-eating beast king's surroundings condensed. In the next moment, inch by inch, it shattered into pieces like porcelain fragments. Chi-Chi. Flames flickered, and Feng Yi took the opportunity to break free. She was still in shock, and the situation of being tied up by the tentacles was too terrifying. She raised her head and was slightly shocked by what she saw. The spirit-eating beast king, which was brimming with vitality, was killed so easily. Wang Xian's face was slightly pale. With his current peak profound rank realm, using the power of the Master God space, even if it was only a trace, was a huge burden. If it happened a few more times, his body would probably collapse. On the spirit-eating beast king's body, a layer of golden light could be seen gathering with the naked eye, gradually converging into a golden soul ring. Waves of pressure were emitted, and it was extremely tyrannical. Obviously, it was an extremely high-quality soul ring. Looking at this soul ring, Wang Xin's pale face carried a slight smile. Although this soul ring was not a water or poison dual-type soul ring, it was very suitable for his third soul ring. The spirit-eating Beast King's soul ring skills were very powerful. If he didn't make a move this time, even if a heaven-rank powerhouse came, they wouldn't be able to easily kill this spirit-eating Beast King. Glancing at the slightly pale Feng Yi, Wang Xian was about to step forward to collect the soul ring. Suddenly, his expression changed. His figure flashed and grabbed Feng Yi. His figure flashed, and in the next moment, he appeared hundreds of feet away. A faint red light streaked across the place where he was standing just a moment ago. The red light flickered. A handsome red-robed young man appeared on the spot. He looked at Wang Xian and Feng Yi, who had dodged the attack, with a surprised expression. He seemed to be surprised that Wang Xian was able to dodge his sneak attack in the first moment. His gaze fell on the spirit-eating Beast King's soul ring on the ground. Without a doubt, this was an exceptionally precious soul beast. Looking at the soul ring, a trace of greed flickered in his eyes, but it was quickly extinguished. There was nothing he could do about a soul ring of this level. His eyes flickered and locked onto Wang Xian and Feng Yi, especially on Feng Yi. Third brother's information is correct. She is indeed a peerless beauty. Moreover, she is a peerless beauty who has exhausted most of her vitality. It seems that I, Bloodhand, am quite lucky today. A lustful light flickered in his eyes. This person was none other than the leader of the Bloody Slaughter hunting group, Bloodhand. The huge commotion caused by the battle between Wang Xian and the Spirit Eater Beast King had intimidated many experts. However, this person was savage by nature and thought highly of himself, so he had actually snuck in. "Little bastard, I'll kill you first so that you won't get in my way." With a cold sneer, a bloody shadow appeared on his body and transformed into a bloody light that shot towards Wang Xian. It was his martial soul, the blood-dissipating divine blade. It was able to absorb blood essence and turn into a blood shadow to attack. It was very strange. Relying on this strange martial soul, his sneak attacks were always successful. He was one of the best among his peers. Facing a heavily injured Earth Stage expert and a Peak Profound Stage expert, he could easily capture them, thinking that he would be able to enjoy the peerless beauty in white. Bloodhand's eyes flickered with excitement and lust. Wang Xian sneered at the blood shadow that was rushing over. The other party's martial soul was rather strange. It was a tool martial soul, and it could transform into a blood shadow to absorb and plunder blood essence. However, this kind of trash dares to sneak attack me. It's purely courting death. Wang Xian sneered and stretched out a hand. An invisible force extended from the blood shadow that was rushing over. With a flash of bloodlight, the blood shadow transformed into a figure in a blood-colored robe. Bloodhand raised his head and looked at the white-clothed youth not far away in shock. His body turned into powder inch by inch. Pucci. Traces of blood dyed the white clothes red. Feng Yi heard the commotion and turned her head to see the skin under the white-clothed youth's clothes crack inch by inch like a spider web. Blood seeped out, and it was abnormally terrifying. Xianer, the beautiful woman in white, looked extremely worried. "It's fine, it's just a little bit of backlash." Wang Xian shook his head. His gaze fell on the nearly 9,000-year pale golden soul ring in front of him. He took a few steps forward and sat down cross-legged. He wanted to take advantage of the time before the power of the Lord God's space completely dissipated to completely condense this third soul ring. Feng Yi looked at Wang Xian with some worry. Wang Xian had just suffered a backlash and immediately condensed the third soul ring. This was too hasty. In the next moment, her expression returned to normal. The most important thing to do now was to recover her soul power. Just now, when she was entangled by the soul-eating beast, more than half of her soul power was sucked away in just a moment. The power of the Phoenix constellation. Vast and mighty starlight fell, and the silver light pillar was like the Milky Way flowing backwards and entering her body. The power in her body began to recover. Condensing the third soul ring was much easier than expected. Perhaps it was because of the trace of the power of the Lord God's space that had yet to dissipate. After an hour, Wang Xian had completely condensed this soul ring. The pure gold soul ring was above the first earthy yellow soul ring and the second white soul ring. It was like a pure gold bracelet, slightly vibrating and emitting a strong soul power pressure. Feng Yi felt this fluctuation and opened her eyes. This kind of soul power pressure was not inferior to her, a peak Earth stage powerhouse. This was simply unbelievable. However, with the inheritance of that peerless existence, in Feng Yi's eyes, this was actually very normal. The chapped skin injuries on Wang Xian's body had completely recovered. Exuberant vitality was emitted, forming a solid emerald brilliance. Wang Xian's eyes flickered with joy. At this moment, he felt a surge of power slowly shaking from his body, oppressing the space. According to Wang Xian's understanding, the power of space and time in the Star River continent was much more difficult than in the Spirit Sea continent. He raised his head. The skill strengthening of this third soul ring was unexpectedly powerful. The first was the vitality strengthening. The martial soul's vitality was greatly increased. Even if the poisonous vines were broken, they could continue to regenerate. This kind of soul skill was not strange. Many plant-type martial souls had this ability. The second was the soul seal, soul seas strengthening. This ability was previously used by the soul-eating Beast King on Feng Yi. Being bound by the vines, she was powerless and couldn't use her soul power. This ability could be said to be a great killer. The third was something the soul-eating Beast King did not have time to use. It was a rather special, mysterious ability. Soul parasitism. Chapter 1249. After devouring countless spirit-devouring seeds, this spirit-devouring Beast King had become a strange existence similar to a mother. It could breed many strange seeds and was not restricted to parasitizing the tree demon's body. Wang Xian used the power of the Lord God space and analyzed almost all the skills in the soul ring. At this moment, this parasitic ability was also inherited by his martial soul. The fourth was soul power sensing. This was a basic ability belonging to the spirit-devouring seed. The spirit-devouring seed had an extraordinary sense of soul power. In his hand, a faint emerald blue light flickered, and a strange spirit vine grew out of Wang Xian's hand like a dragon. In the blink of an eye, it covered a large area of the forest. After its vines were strengthened by the third soul ring, there were no longer only 3 vines. Instead, there were many vines, each of which was like a crawling, poisonous snake. There were also strange black flowers lying on the vines. At a glance, one could tell that they were highly poisonous. The barbs on the vines were indistinct. Once entangled, it would definitely be extremely terrifying. At this moment, it was obviously inappropriate to call it the black water dragon spirit grass. However, it was not appropriate to call it the black water dragon spirit flower. Perhaps I should call it the black water spirit devouring flower. Wang Xian smiled slightly. After breaking through to the earth rank, his strength was not only limited to the purification of his martial soul. At this moment, he could clearly feel that he had formed a connection with a star in a nebula above the 33 heavens. It was different from the Spirit Sea continent's fated star. It seemed that after awakening his martial soul, the fate of this star was tied to his and even the surrounding constellations. As his strength increased, this connection would become deeper and deeper. Once the opportunity came, he would be able to comprehend his own constellation's mysteries. Perhaps it was because he was born noble. The star in the sky was also extraordinary. Wang Xian vaguely felt that the essence of this star was definitely not inferior to his original primeval main star. As for the specifics, he was not sure. However, he was certain that this star's attributes should be water and wood, and its power was extremely strong and majestic. Through this star, Wang Xian could vaguely feel that there was a group of stars around him resonating, forming an extremely mysterious pattern. That pattern was a constellation. It contained many extremely mysterious mysteries of heaven and earth. Even the main god space needed a certain amount of time to decipher the secrets within. Since it's a star with water and wood elements, it will be called the Azure Dragon Star from now on. Azure Dragon, king of water and wood, myriad spirits worshipping the heavens. Azure Dragon Star, a good name. On the side, Feng Yi opened her mouth and said with a smile. Her beautiful jade face had a slight smile that was extremely charming and moved one's heart. At this moment, Wang Xian's peak earth-grade power was being emitted. He was no weaker than her. The beautiful woman in white was both happy and proud. If he could reach the heaven stage, he would be considered a top expert in the entire West Chu Empire. Wang Xian's expression did not change as his gaze fell upon the forest. His expression was cold. Are you guys still not leaving? The emerald starlight on his body flickered, and countless vines grew out of his body, covering the sky and the sun as if they had enveloped the entire forest. Under the tremendous pressure, many of the existences who were secretly watching were shocked. The auras fled like rats, leaving quickly. A bunch of unpresentable fellows. A trace of understanding flashed across Feng Yi's beautiful face. Turning around, her gaze landed on the white-clothed youth. Xian, or what do you plan to do next? Are you still going to the Jadewater Lake? Do you need to go into seclusion for a few months to polish your foundation? No need. My foundation is stable. There won't be a problem. The next fourth soul ring is very important, but the Jadewater Soaring Dragon Wood is a top-grade wood-type soul ring, so it's suitable. Wang Xian's eyes lit up. The Jadewater Soaring Dragon Wood had several very special abilities, and these special abilities were extremely important for plant-type soul beasts. According to the information Wang Xian found in the ancient books and the analysis of the Lord God space, the Jadewater Soaring Dragon Wood's soul ring had a strange fusion and balancing ability with the various major soul rings of the plant-type soul ring. However, Wang Xian was very cautious. His third soul ring was the soul ring of the 9,000-year spirit-eating Beast King. With his current soul power strength, the position of his fourth soul ring should be able to withstand more than 15,000 years of soul power. There was a clear dividing line between 10,000 years and 10,000 years of soul power. Soul beasts under 10,000 years of maturity and 10,000 years of soul power were two completely different concepts. The limit of a normal peak Earth rank powerhouse's soul ring was around 10,000 years. Those who could exceed 11,000 years were peerless geniuses. However, Wang Xian couldn't be considered a genius at all. After breaking through to the Earth rank, he could sense that the power of the Lord God space was becoming more and more majestic. Once he advanced to the heaven rank, there might be an explosive increase in power. The two of them left the place. However, the news of two peak Earth rank existences entering the Jadewater Lake with the intention of advancing to the heaven rank also quietly spread out from the mouths of various powerhouses. The heaven rank realm was no small matter. This attracted the attention of many large powers, and even alarmed some heaven rank powerhouses in the sections. Heaven rank powerhouses were the foundation of a first-rate large power. Every additional heaven rank powerhouse represented another existence to divide the cake. If possible, some heaven rank powerhouses didn't mind killing them. However, just as the news spread out, Wang Xian and Feng Yi had already arrived at the Jadewater Lake. This Jadewater Lake looked abnormally strange. A large area of water surrounded it, and this was a huge lake. But the strange thing was that there were patches of forest growing in the lake. Ancient trees stood in the middle of the lake, reaching to the sky like umbrellas. This was a kind of strange tree. The bark carried a verdant color, suffused with a dark green fluorescence. The top of the tree was like a large umbrella. The most peculiar thing was that this strange tree even had vines growing on it. Jade water, soaring dragon wood. Wang Xian's figure flew up. Looking over, this long and narrow lake with a faint water light was completely filled with this kind of jade water soaring dragonwood. The height was uneven, like a giant in the water. The older it was, the thicker it was, and also the taller it was. The more mature it was, the bark actually suffused a jade water color, like pieces of dense dragon scales. And the older it was, the more dragon-shaped the trunk was. It was rumored that when the jade water soaring dragon wood was 10,000 years old and above, it could break free from the body and transform into a soaring dragon, breaking away from the limitations of its roots and able to roam everywhere. Soaring dragon was a type of plant after transforming into a dragon. However, after transforming, the soaring dragon's abilities were even stronger, and its body would become smaller instead. What Wang Xian wanted to find was a jade water soaring dragon wood that was over 15,000 years old. A jade water soaring dragon wood that was over 15,000 years old had clearly transformed into a soaring dragon long ago, breaking away from its roots. The difficulty of finding a tiny soaring dragon in such a huge lake could be imagined. Chapter 1250. Above the Jade Lake. The Jade Lake was shaking violently. Rumble. The roaring sound of the water shook both sides. Roar. A low and violent sound came from the lake. Above the lake, two figures floated in the air. The white-clothed youth stretched out a hand, and a faint purple brilliance circled around his fingertip like an invisible purple dragon. The purple dragon aura burst forth. Like a fish that smelled bait in the lake, a pale green dragon suddenly appeared in the shallow waters of the lake. It looked to be only a few feet long, but its eyes were filled with majesty, ferocity, and greed. Its gaze landed on the white-clothed youth. The instinct deep in its bloodline made it sense that if it swallowed that wisp of purple aura, that white-clothed youth, it would definitely be able to advance further and break through the overlord rank, becoming one of the few monarch-ranked soul beasts in the great soul beast forest. Xianer, what is this? Why is this soaring dragon so greedy for your wisp of purple aura? On the side, Feng Yi was still in shock. Wang Xian's handsome face flashed with a trace of a smile. Sure enough, as he expected, the otherworldly ancestral dragon essence Qi had extraordinary benefits for the dragon-type soul beasts here. All methods originated from the same source. Kid, who are you? How do you have the ancestral dragon essence, Qi? Tell this king. When this king swallows you, I will try my best to let you die painlessly. A thunderous voice sounded. Visible to the naked eye, the 10-foot soaring dragon's body was like a balloon, turning into a 100-foot dragon and looking down at Feng Yi and Wang Xian in the air. Its ferocity was awe-inspiring. The power of overlord rank was released. Feng Yi's expression changed greatly. Under this power, she felt like an ant, unable to resist at all. A overlord rank existence was equivalent to a heaven rank. It was definitely not something an earth rank powerhouse could resist. Want to swallow me? Wang Xian sneered. Kid, you're not afraid of death. The soaring dragon looked at Wang Xian in surprise. Only when facing an existence stronger than myself will I feel fear. What's there to be afraid of facing you? Wang Xian shook his head. You dare to look down on this king. The soaring dragon flew into a rage, its eyes flashing fiercely. In the next moment, countless wooden vines appeared from the ground, sweeping towards Feng Yi and Wang Xian. Wang Xian's expression was cold as he looked over. Countless vines broke out of the ground and turned into dust that filled the sky. His gaze locked on a tongue long inch by inch. The void collapsed and distorted. The surging space-time energy was vast and boundless, but it suddenly drowned soaring dragon without a sound. Tung Long's face flickered with astonishment. No! Its mouth opened as wide as it could, but no sound came out. Bang! In the next moment, the huge dragon body that was hundreds of feet long crashed to the ground. In an instant, The power of the Lord God's space wiped out all of Soaring Dragon's vitality. Faint purple light gathered above Tung Long's corpse and gradually turned into a purple soul ring that exuded a vast and mighty power. Wang Xian smiled and descended. He was about to condense this soul ring. Haha, I really didn't think that Gu Chun, would be so lucky today. I actually picked up a 15,000 plus soul ring for free. Just then, a thunderous voice rang out, accompanied by a burst of wild laughter. The sky trembled, and a large wind and rain came. In the water, a powerhouse in a long robe walked out of the wind and rain. He had a white face and no beard. His hair was tied up high, and he held a wooden staff in his hand. He looked at Soaring Dragon's corpse with a fiery and greedy expression. Seeing this person, Feng Yi's expression changed slightly, and she said to Wang Xian, "It's Gu Chun, the heaven-rank ancestor of the Gu family, the overlord of the Wind Ridge County." Wang Xian nodded slightly. Rumble. At this moment, a bolt of lightning flashed in the sky, and thunder rumbled. The heaven-rank powerhouse, called Gu Chen's expression changed, and he looked at the sky with fear. "Gu Chun, if you want to eat alone, you have to ask me, Lei Yun." A violent force swept over, causing tens of thousands of thunder to rumble in the sky. Amidst the lightning, a mighty middle-aged man wearing a blue robe and carrying a large saber on his back walked out. Lightning surged on his body, and the devastating destructive power jumped like arcs of lightning. His gaze swept across the Soaring Dragon's corpse and landed on the purple 10,000-year soul ring. A strange look flashed across his eyes. What a pity! So it was a Soaring Dragon that caused such a commotion. This old man is not a water type, but a wood type soul martial artist. I can't condense this soul ring, but even so, I can't let this old thief Gu Chun take advantage of me so easily. He thought in his heart and looked to the side. Two peak earth rank powerhouses? His gaze landed on the beautiful woman in white, and his eyes lit up. There's such a beauty in this world. Wang Xian frowned. He sensed the undisguised lust in this heaven-rank powerhouse's eyes. Feng Yi's face was as cold as frost. If not for his identity as a heaven-rank ancestor, she would have immediately turned this person into ashes. Lei Yun, this Soaring Dragon soul ring, was discovered by me first. Gu Chun looked at Patriarch Lei Yun with a fearful expression. He was determined to get this Soaring Dragon soul ring. Although this Soaring Dragon soul ring was not enough to become his fifth soul ring, he could use a secret technique to fuse it with his fourth soul ring and greatly increase the power of his fourth soul ring. Gu Chun, your Gu family is the same as our Lei family. Both are large families in Wind Ridge County. Let's not talk nonsense. That woman belongs to me, and the soul ring belongs to you. But other than that, you have to give the small soul crystal mine that the Gu family just discovered outside the Great Soul Beast Forest to our Lei family. Lei Yun's expression was cold. His gaze occasionally turned and landed on Feng Yi, and greed flashed across the corner of his eyes. Gu Chun glanced at Feng Yi with slight regret in his eyes. This woman was a heavenly beauty, and from her appearance, it was obvious that she was a woman of inner charm. She definitely had a peerless famous artifact on her, and was a blessing in bed. Such a beauty could only be taken advantage of by this old lecher, Lei Yun. As for the condition at the back, it made his heart ache. A small soul crystal mine was a huge sum of money to some small families. The Lei family had a large business, but a small soul crystal mine was not a small sum. However, he was determined to get the Soaring Dragon soul ring. Back then, in order to break through to the heaven rank, his fourth soul ring was slightly flawed. If he could get the Soaring Dragon soul ring to fill this gap, there was hope for him to reach the monarch rank in the future. What are the two of you discussing? How can we, the two parties involved, be left out of such a big matter as dividing up the benefits? A voice suddenly sounded. Gu Chun and Lei Yun were stunned. They turned around and looked at the white-clothed youth beside the beautiful woman in white. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up into a cold arc. These two heaven stage ancestors had already set their sights on him and Feng Yi. In front of him, they were already preparing to divide up his spoils of war and women. Chapter 12:51. Little bastard, are you courting death? Lei Yun's face was suffused with a trace of coldness. Gu Chen's face also sank. Let's kill this eyesore first, then we'll split the benefits. Wang Xian looked over. That's not right. We are. Lei Yun and Gu Chen were about to stir up the vast soul power in their bodies. But in the next moment, their faces changed as they discovered that they were unable to move. A strange power appeared soundlessly, and it seemed to seal their soul power and even their martial souls. Wang Xian looked at the slightly dazed Feng Yi. I kept their voices. You can torture them however you want. Don't kill them first. Beat them up ruthlessly first. It doesn't matter if you cripple them or kill them. Wang Xian stared at the two heaven-rank powerhouses with killing intent. He liked to repay grievances with justice. These two dared to have ideas about him. He definitely couldn't let them die so easily. Before they died, he had to beat them up ruthlessly. Xian, you sealed their power? Feng Yi's beautiful eyes looked at the white-clothed youth in disbelief. Sealing two heaven-rank powerhouses with just a glance. Even the legendary monarch-rank powerhouses couldn't be compared to him. Wang Xian nodded slightly, his gaze looking at the purple soul ring on the ground. He didn't have the time to deal with those two heaven-rank powerhouses. To him, this purple soul ring was the most important. He went forward and sat down cross-legged, beginning to condense this purple soul ring. Seeing this, Feng Yi turned around and looked at Gu Chen and Lei Yun. Gu Chen and Lei Yun's faces changed slightly. They vaguely knew that they had hit an iron plate this time. What do you want to do? Gu Chen's expression was gloomy. Little girl, let this old man go. My Lei family will reward you greatly. Reward? Feng Yi's beautiful face was as cold as ice. A trace of ruthlessness flashed through her eyes. If it wasn't for Wang Xian's power, she would have fallen into the hands of these two old farts and suffered humiliation. Crackle. Flames gathered in her hand, and a fiery red whip lashed out in the air like a poisonous dragon, causing a thunderous explosion. Gu Chen and Lei Yun, the two heaven stage experts' faces changed. A trace of fear flashed across their faces. You two old beasts, didn't you covet this great ant's beauty? Today, this great ant will play with you. Feng Yi's beautiful face flashed with killing intent. Just as she was about to lash out with her whip to teach these two heaven-rank experts a lesson, she suddenly frowned and glanced at Wang Xian beside her. We cannot disturb Xian's cultivation. With this thought, the flame whip wrapped around Gu Cheng and Lei Yun. Grabbing them, Gu Cheng and Lei Yun appeared on a rocky beach 3 kilometers away. They were hung on 2 large trees, hung up, and lashed out with a whip. A moment later, miserable screams rang out from the rocky beach. The battle between Wang Xian and Tung Long was extremely intense. Almost everyone in the outer perimeter of the Soul Beast Forest could sense it. Seeing that the terrifying fluctuations had disappeared, some of the bolder experts stealthily approached the Jade Lake. However, as soon as he reached the Jade Lake, he was dumbfounded. The scene in front of them was too beautiful. He didn't dare to look. An extremely beautiful woman was holding a flame whip and fiercely lashing out at 2 ugly old men. The white-clothed woman's figure and appearance was something no one had ever seen before. This kind of beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city. However, her actions were completely out of proportion to her beauty. She was actually beating up 2 old men in the middle of the Soul Beast Forest by the Jade Lake. Could it be that this beautiful woman has some special fetish? More than one expert thought so. Many experts began to think. Being beaten up by such a beautiful woman wasn't something they couldn't accept, as long as they could kiss her. That's not right. Why do those 2 old men look so familiar? Suddenly, a blue-clothed youth was stunned and exclaimed, "Do you think so too? I've always thought they looked familiar." At the side, a short youth was also deep in thought. This group of youths were all well-known figures from several large families in the Windridge County, especially the blue-clothed youth who spoke earlier. He was the Lay family's famous genius of this generation, Lay Tianyan. The others were also elites from various large families in the Windridge County. The Gu family's Gu Tong Tian, the Tang family's Tang 13, and the Ling family's Ling Xiu were all outstanding talents. But to be honest, these two old men are really miserable. Look at their bare chests and breasts. Even their buttocks are exposed. One look, and you can tell that they must have done something shameful to incur that lady's hatred. At the side, Gu Tong Tian had a disdainful expression. He stared at the two old men with disdain. Many people secretly nodded. Seeing this scene, almost everyone subconsciously leaned towards Feng Yi. Between the wretched old men and the beautiful woman, there was almost no choice. Especially the latter's temperament was so otherworldly, pure, and holy. The scene of a wretched old man plotting to murder a beautiful woman and being hung up and beaten by the woman naturally entered their minds. Two wretched old farts. Serves them right. I should carve the word pervert on the buttocks of these two old farts. From time to time, there were young, aristocratic family disciples who spoke. Gu Chun and Lei Yun's cultivation were sealed, but the extremely sharp five senses of a heaven stage expert were still there. They heard a group of people discussing and pointing. The two of them were about to faint from anger. Especially among the onlookers, there were many disciples of the Gu family and Lei family. Among them, there were also a few junior disciples that two of them thought highly of. For example, Lei family's Lei Tianyan, Gu family's Gu Tong Tian. Even the disciples of the two families couldn't recognize their own ancestors. It was enough to see how badly the two of them fought. The whip formed by the flames was formed by the true phoenix fire. Even if it was a piece of divine iron, it could be beaten into a divine iron that his mother wouldn't recognize. That's not right. Why do I feel that one of the old men looks a bit like the Lei family's ancestor Lei Yun? At this moment, a weak voice sounded. When this voice came out, in an instant, everyone looked at this person. No, when ancestor Lei Yun married his 16th concubine, I was fortunate enough to enter the Lei family, to drink wine, and saw ancestor Lei Yun from afar. When these words came out, many people secretly nodded. Everyone in the Windridge County knew that although the Lei family's ancestor Lei Yun was a heaven stage expert, he was extremely lascivious and had more than 20 concubines. The group of people's expressions became more suspicious. They looked carefully, but the more they looked, the more they found it to be similar. However, it became more and more unbelievable. The Lei family's ancestor Lei Yun was a heaven stage expert. How could he be hung up and beaten by a beautiful woman here? For a moment, everyone's expression was somewhat strange. Among them, the faces of a few disciples of the Lei family turned purple like a pig's liver. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.